Hey, this is Bruce Boudreau, and you're listening to Empty Betters with Nick, Mack, and Harrison.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to episode 200 of Empty Betters. Man, that is really weird to say out loud, but yeah, it's our 200th episode. My name is Harrison Scholes. I'm your host today. I'm going to toss it across the screen to my co-host, Nick Manella. What's going on, buddy?
Not too much. Hopefully, you boys didn't just see my beer explode all over me. I think she was a little bit excited for episode 200, like I am. So it's just crazy to think that we're here at 200. It has been an absolute ride, for lack of a better word. And yeah, I think you guys will enjoy this one. It should be a good one.
Started way back in September of 2019, and here we are in February of 2024. A lot of shit's going down in the last 5 years, and we're still kicking. So we appreciate all the fans who always listen and support us. I am now going to toss it across the screen to my other co-host who joined us in 2020 up in Wisco, Mr. Mac Vogel. What's going on, my friend?
How we doing, y'all? Yep. Episode 200. Good to be here. Feels crazy. I echo what all y'all said. But hey, we made it. And here's to 200 more, right?
I love the shade you're rocking with. It's sort of like first interview with Fukali vibes when he rocked out the red shades.
That is. It is. Yeah. Shout out to my girlfriend. These are actually hers, and she's like obsessed with them, but she left them here, so not my fault.
So we got a little.
I heard those are yours now.
Yeah, exactly. They're hearts too, if you can't tell. So happy Valentine's Day, everybody.
Yeah, it's the reverse hoodie law.
Exactly. Yep.
Well, we got a special epi on tap here for episode 200. Gonna have a little fun with this one. Big interview on tap. First off, I want to announce that we were lucky enough to be joined by former NHL goaltender and king of the one-punch knockout, Mr. Brent Johnson, former Capital, former Penguin, former Coyote, and St. Louis Blue. Was a blast chatting to him. So we appreciate him coming on. Thought it was a really fun interview. And then later in the episode, we're going to have some EB trivia and a couple fan questions of just some empty better / podcast stuff later in the episode for those who are maybe interested in starting one or you have one already or whatever. But a little bit of a different vibe this episode, kind of celebrating a little bit. Before we get rolling, what did you guys do for your Super Bowl weekend?
We always have a big excuse me, we have a big party here. There was probably about, I don't know, 12, 15 of us, something like that. And, just everybody makes a different snack, unlimited Miller Lights, essentially. Yeah, it was a good time. I mean, the game was a good one, which was cool because everyone was nice and invested for like the whole game. So that was fun. Bummer about the result, but we one of my buddies is a 49ers fan, and he was pretty inconsolable at the end of the game. I had to take him on a little walk after the game so he could shake that one off. But
did the TV survive?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
It's understandable. We all been there through the heartbreak of our beloved teams, so I get it.
Is it Rippy?
No, it's my buddy Max. I'm not sure if you met him or not.
I saw your IG story and I thought I saw like the Rippy hair and I was like, no, like not Rippy. He can't lose.
No, he was busy ripping up the kitchen, right?
Exactly. He was. Yeah.
That looked
Shout
good.
out to that's always the highlight of our Super Bowl party. He makes these unreal like fried chicken sliders, and it's like better than Chick-fil-A, better than any like commercial fried chicken sandwich I've ever had in my life. It's so fucking good.
Like, I love how you call them sliders when in the Instagram story you posted, they are just full size chicken sandwiches. I think it has to be a Midwest thing, right?
Well, they're on a mini like Hawaiian roll, but the chicken itself is so fucking big. It's like hanging over it. So it's, yeah, call it what you want.
Nick, what about your weekend?
Nothing too crazy. Just watched it with the fam. You guys, you know me. When it comes to Super Bowls, I am not, I love going to Super Bowl parties and hanging out with my friends. But if it's going to be something where I can't hear the game, there's people constantly walking in front of the TV, or I have to do the little plate thing, I'm not about it. So just took it easy with the fam. I sent you guys some snaps. I whipped up some pasta sauce, some meatballs. My dad made these amazing like buffalo chicken, like brown chicken meatballs with like blue cheese and onions in them. They were so good. Little buff chicky dip, little pigs in a blanket. It was a blast.
That sounds absolutely phenomenal. Thoughts on the game, fellas? Like real quick before we get started. I mean, like Mahomes.
I
Like
was
this is a
pulling hard
problem.
for the Niners. I used to live in the Bay Area. I used to live down the street from Bryant Young, who played for the 49ers. And, there's hilarious stories of like us having block parties, and this 300-pound defensive lineman is playing touch football with 5, 6, and 7-year-old kids. And, Jeff Gordon was in attendance rooting for the Niners, as if, that wasn't going to sway me enough. But I mean, both offenses, man, I think you have to look at them and say they didn't really do a good job. And I don't know how Chris Jones doesn't win MVP.
Well, you know why, but
It's, the National Quarterback League. But other than that, I feel like he should
yeah.
have won it.
Those that game tying drive and that game winning drive, it was just like ultimate legacy game on the line, third and fourth down conversions that are just the only Mahomes can make. It's ridiculous. I mean, I don't personally care for him too much, but I can't deny the fact that, there's a couple fourth downs and 3rd and 6 on the game tying drive where he just keeps it on the option. And I'm like, this fucking guy, he doesn't even have to throw the ball sometimes. It's crazy how good he is. I guess congrats to the Chiefs. I'm not sure. Maybe congrats to Taylor Swift. I don't know.
Can we talk about like the most significant part of the Super Bowl? And that was the Nickelodeon coverage, because that was absolutely incredible. Like
Unreal.
just
Yeah.
the most absurd, nonsensical stuff ever, which was fantastic.
I think my favorite bit had to be that Squidward was still waiting in line for the bathroom and he hasn't seen any of the game.
That was fantastic. The my leg guy that they like put him in the stands and had someone drop something on him. It's just absurd.
Yeah.
I like they had a thing on Travis Kelce on the sideline, and instead of saying like Travis Kelce number 87, they had Taylor Swift's boyfriend. I actually thought that was pretty clever. I enjoyed that. But yeah, Super Bowl Sunday, took it easy, nothing too crazy. I actually couldn't move, so that's probably why I took it easy. So little hungover Chipotle never hurts anybody, but
There you
yeah,
go.
it was a Sunday for recovery. I do have to say, and for anyone who I apologize, followed me on any type of social media, was over in Scottsdale, Arizona over the weekend for one of my best friend's bachelor parties. Keep this at the PG version, but essentially, I had no idea what I was signing up for when I agreed to go to this cross-country bachelor party. Nick, I feel like maybe you would have had an idea. Like the Waste Management Open is truly like the rowdiest sporting event in the world.
It's absurd. I mean, it's basically a couple steps away from being like the snake pit at the Indy 500 or like the infield party at Daytona. It's just
Nuts.
like it's just a party that happens to be next to a sporting event, for lack of a better word. And I think we've all seen the headlines and how crazy the 2024 edition got. So is this going to happen next year, or are they done with it now?
So I feel like, I have some golf friends who were on that trip that we're talking about, and they're like, they have to keep it because it generates a lot of money. It was actually,
Right.
I think, I can't remember what the term is. I'm not a golf guy, but it was like a premier event or elevated event
Mhm.
last year. So like the purse was pretty big and they had the big guys out there. But I mean, to give you folks an idea, so there's 4 days of the tournament. We went on Friday, which is day 2. It rained on the day 1 on Thursday, so they didn't get to finish the round. So some of it leaked over into Friday. We were up at 4:45 in the morning, called an Uber to wait in line, and got there around, I think, probably around 5:30-ish. And we were not let in until 8:30 in
Dude,
the
that's
morning.
like some secret shit right there. Like that's like
Well,
Memorial Day weekend waiting in the parking lot in Ocean City for like 4.5 hours to pay $60 to get into something.
it was madness, man. They said originally everyone would be let in at 7. There was like these frost delays, so they delayed it until I guess 8 or 8:30. And for those who don't know, like the big place that everyone wants to be is the 16th hole. It's a par 3. You can see where everything is, and they have like this like little 4,000 person stadium surrounding it. So you get like bleacher seats basically, and you're not standing in the grass. And everybody wants to wait in line early in the morning because you have to run to it. You can't like buy a seat there and stay if you're general admission. You have to literally run to it. So we're all like dying, right? Everyone's got to go to the bathroom. Everyone's got to eat breakfast. Like everyone's like, what the fuck? It's been 3 hours. And then out of nowhere, it's like a silent hut, like just like no, a silent count. Nobody says anything. And people just start fucking sprinting like as fast as they can. And, I'm like, oh my God, like, all right, I guess here we go. And since it rained the day before, the sidewalk was kind of slippery. It is a half-mile sprint to get to hole 16. And it was, in one word to describe it, I was thinking about this today, it was barbaric. Like that's the word I would use. So like you're running up this hill and it's windy and like people are tripping over the curb. My buddy stepped on someone's fucking face. Like people are getting trampled.
Jesus.
Yeah, it was
Holy shit.
it was like survive. I was like, this is the Hunger Games. Like it was kind of scary. I'm not gonna lie. Like people are shoving and throwing elbows, and then you wait in line. We all made it. We all lost each other, then found each other. It's a group of 8 guys. We got there. And then we got our seats. And at first we're like, all right, we're here. It's like 9 a.m. Like, let's go. And we look back in the beer concession stand has a line of just like 1,000 people. And we're like, no, 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 no. Like, there's no chance we're gonna get served today. Like, this sucks. Well, we were proved wrong after about an hour. It kind of died down. You literally just walk up the stairs and there's the beer line. And let's
Oh,
just say
nice.
that, they serve them in the little green cups. And those cups got filled up pretty quick if you're catching on. And I posted this on Snapchat, which is now deleted, or Instagram if you follow me. So they do this thing where it's like feed the snake, like people from Wrigley Field claim that they started it. Max, I had like 4 Chicago people say this is a Cubs thing. And I'm like, is it? Can
Like,
you confirm or
do
deny
you
it?
think I care right now?
Yeah.
The Cubs love doing it at Wrigley. I don't know if they started it. I feel like it's just a like almost like you said, a barbaric sports thing. It's just like a dumb thing that boys like to do. Like
Yeah.
I don't know how else to explain it. I don't think
like if
anyone
we were
really
drinking
deserves
out
credit
of
for it. Like
if
it
we were
just
drinking out of Legos, we would build Legos, but we just have cups to play with.
like literally I'm saying that like to say that you invented it is kind of like saying like you invented like drinking beer or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
just
Well, I
people
thought
do this.
I thought of you, Mac, because it was the Chicago thing. I was like, oh, Chicago baseball. I wonder if Mac knows this. But anyways, um, the we made a snake, and if this gets clipped, Nick, I'll send you the footage and we'll turn the audio off because it's just fucking incredible. The first snake was 3 different sections of dudes who were all on bachelor parties at the same time, of which were wearing Hawaiian shirts, banana suits, caddies, and like just pieces of toast bread. They combine all of them and they make this mega snake that was on television. And I think it was my sister sent me a picture of it. And it's just the biggest fucking snake you'll ever see. It's as tall as like the scoreboard. It was insane. And then the cops ended up coming. They had to take it down. We ended up building 4 snakes over the course of the day. I'll keep it short because I could drag this on forever, but just pure degeneracy. Like, I can't believe it's legal that they let people actually attend this event.
I heard some of like, we all heard that they had to cut off beer sales and a lot of people who had tickets didn't get in on Saturday. But I heard some of like the actual behavior was just complete lunacy this year. Like it was significantly worse than years past.
He had like the guy across from us was motorboating a chick's tits that went all over like TikTok, like everywhere. It was crazy.
God,
It was
bro.
crazy. And like the guy, like the sign guy who comes by with like the sign with the scoreboard, everyone's like, oh, and then when he changes it, they go, oh, they go, sign guy, and everyone, I'm like, this is just like stupid. Like,
Yeah.
why? And like, they moved the pin from the first round to the second round, and the same thing. The guy moves the pin like, oh, and then when he slams it into the grass, they go, oh, and then they go, move that hole. Move. It's nuts. And last thing I'll say, I know I'm dragging this. The Siwoo Kim fan club that like followed him around the course. I don't know how they did that. Probably the coolest thing I've ever seen is when he's on 16 and they all start chanting, "Woo, there it is," and they got the whole crowd to do it. And I think he birdied that hole. Loudest thing I've ever heard. It was super cool. So shout out to those guys. But yeah, WMO was a time.
Successful bachelor party is what I'm hearing.
It was a successful bachelor party. I am 2 for 2 on pooping on my last 2 plane rides, so there's that one as well. So,
That was going to be my next question:
nice.
is how did the return come? On the flight home, did we?
horrible.
Yeah.
Horrible. I thought I was going to throw up the entire time. I was so nauseous.
Oof.
Yeah, and
So now that you've had the 2 experiences, one trying to come out the front and one coming out the back on the airplane, which one was worse?
the back. This one was brutal.
Okay.
It was not fun, but yeah, it was a great weekend. I want to send you guys some footage. Maybe we'll post it out. Maybe we won't. I don't know. It depends if it's PG enough or not. But that is my WMO story. It was a great time. And shout out to my buddy Mike. Congrats on the marriage here in a month. All righty, we're going to move on to business. Brent Johnson interview coming up here shortly. We do want to let you guys know that the Shoot the Puck merchandise is now on our merch store. Nick, I know you designed this. You want to go into a little more detail?
Yeah, super intricate design, boys. I had to spend like 400 hours on this one. I mean, it just took me forever to come up with this.
There's a lot of layers to it, a lot of subliminal messaging going on.
Yeah, ogres have layers. My designs have layers. No, I'm totally kidding. This is super simple, super fun design. If you're tired of yelling at your team to shoot the puck, go ahead and get a hat. All you have to do is this, or a shirt. All you have to do is this. And I've practiced that like 20 times today, so it's actually pretty easy.
Just doing a lot of pointing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Wow.
basically, like, we know there's plenty of that guy listening right now. If you're that guy, just go buy the shirt.
I also see 3 of them right now, just saying.
Yeah, I was going to say, the guys speaking right now, not even listening, are probably guilty of that.
I've also started to use the phrase shoot the puck just in any situation where I'm frustrated. So like the other day I was moving a bunch of boxes. I dropped something. I was like, oh, you got to be kidding me. Shoot the damn puck.
That's actually so good. I'm going to have to adopt that one myself.
So before we toss it off to Brent Johnson, we got our QOTD. I have one hockey related and one I just thought of as I was finishing the WMO storyline. My first one, I'm going to knock it out. That's related to the golf tournament. Are you guys familiar with smelling salts?
Yep.
Okay, so like you see a guy going like this, right? Like under his nose. What's the first thing you're thinking of if you see him in public? You think he's doing like actual drugs?
If he's going like this, smelling salts. If he's going like this with his necklace, cocaine.
No, like you could see you could probably notice there's a little packet in his hand.
Yeah, you crack it, it
Yeah.
turns red, and you go like this. Yeah.
Smelling salts.
Do you think that it's a widely known thing that people use smelling salts? Maybe not necessarily at a golf tournament is the most common place, but like in general.
My friends and I have used them on bachelor parties before, now that you bring it up.
Okay, so I'm not crazy because there was one chick who was accusing, we were having salts just to wake up. She's like, you guys are doing cocaine. I'm like, are you crazy? She's like, no, like how's that not illegal? Like, what are you doing? Like, I'm going to call the police. And I was like, it's a fucking smelling salt. And I
Was
turned her
this
back
like an attendant, or was this just a random person that was accusing you?
No,
of
she was pretty obliterated, but
okay.
I found that interesting. I was like, you think we're doing
It's like
cocaine out in the open?
If I break this packet open and inhale the ammonia that's in there, I'm pretty sure it's going to go really, really bad. So, I'll just stick with the smelling salts.
I didn't know if it was like an unknown thing and it's like a hockey guy thing. Cause I know hockey, like,
it's a big hockey thing for sure.
men's league and stuff, but
I would use them before swim meets too.
Yeah.
I can see that.
A little crunch. All
Clear
right.
the
So
pipes.
what'd you call?
Clear the pipes.
Clear the pipes. Yeah. Hockey QOTD, make it quick. I saw this on Instagram today and I wanted to know what your guys' thoughts are. Capitals and Penguins are off limits. Not that would even make a difference because you'll see where I'm going. What would be your dream Stanley Cup matchup for this coming playoffs?
Now that we brought it up last episode, this whole Bruins Canucks 2011 rematch is really jumping out to me. And mainly because that keeps the Rangers, Hurricanes, Islanders, Devils out of the Stanley Cup final.
That would be a good one, though.
That's a fair point. I don't know. That's a tough one. I got to think about it. The hardest part about this is I kind of fucking hate everyone in the Eastern Conference that isn't the Washington Capitals.
And the Red Wings, Sabres, and Senators aren't making the Stanley Cup final.
No, so it's like I'm not even like going to include that. I would say I think Vancouver would be really cool, but I'll pick something else since you said that. I'll say like LA or maybe even like I think the Jets would be pretty cool.
That would be fun.
They got to the cup final. Just that fan base is so diehard that like that would be really cool to see. And then from the East as like a matchup, I mean, can you imagine if it was like Winnipeg and Toronto or something like that?
God.
Cool. Like that would actually be unreal.
Plus, like if it's in Winnipeg, then the Cup parade gets to be in the snow in June, which is going to be awesome.
Right. Or if we go the LA route, I think it'd be pretty cool still if it was like LA, New York or something like that, like LA Rangers again,
Ooh, little Jonathan Quick rematch.
Yeah.
That would be really cool. I like that.
What about you, Harry?
I think the popular one, and I agree with this, is definitely, Oilers, Leafs, McDavid, Matthews. That would be pretty cool. I'm not going to deny that, but I'll kind of do something else. I think another really good matchup in terms of just raw hockey, maybe not necessarily storylines. I think Florida and Colorado would be a great series.
96 rematch.
Yeah, you got a little Nick Cousins action stirring it up. You got some beauty talent, second in the league in goals, Sam Reinhart going up against the MVP, probably Nate McKinnon. Some good goaltending matchups, 2 Russian goalies. I think that would be a great matchup.
I think it would be a really interesting goalie matchup too, because you have sort of like high octane offensive players on both sides and goalies who, I think Bob has looked good this year. I don't, is he like a top 5 goaltender of the league? I wouldn't necessarily say that myself right now, but I think you could probably say the same out of Georgiev.
Yeah. I also think both teams have a lot of defensemen who have a huge offensive upside, just a lot of skill, a lot of firepower up and down the lineup.
For sure. All right. Well, now that you've bared with us through all the shenanigans, we'll get down to it with the interview with Brent Johnson. But before we do, I think Nick has a word from our sponsor, Kane Footwear.
Absolutely. I'm rocking my Canes right now. 200 episodes. You better believe I'm tired. My back and my knees have been stuck at this desk for a long time. So that's why I've got my Kane Revives on. They're changing the way you recover with their bounce back foam made from sugarcane technology. Head to the link in our bio today to get a pair of the most comfortable shoes you will ever own.
We are going to toss it off to Mr. Brent Johnson right now.
All right, it's now my pleasure to welcome onto the Empty Betters podcast, Brent Johnson. Brent, thanks so much for joining us for our 200th episode. I know we're really excited to ask you some questions, but yeah, thanks for being here.
Well, 200th episode, it's my pleasure, guys. Mac, Vogues, it's finally nice to meet you and good to see you. I love your dad so much. Just thanks for having me on, gentlemen.
Appreciate the kind words. Yeah. So we always start our interviews the same way pretty much every time. So we'll do the same here and ask you the question of what's like your earliest hockey memory. What are some of your earliest memories of the game?
I would go back to probably mites, you go back further than that, just skating out on, frozen ponds in Michigan. But I think, kind of organized hockey was mites playing defenseman for the Farmington Flyers back in the day. And my coach, I can remember my coach, Mr. Butler, calling me the best one-handed defenseman in the league. I never put 2 hands on the stick, obviously. I don't know why. But I guess that was kind of foreshadowing what I was going to be going into a little later on in my minor hockey days.
Absolutely. Yeah. And obviously big hockey history in your family too. So I'm sure that had to play a role in you kind of getting involved from the jump, right?
It did. I mean, yeah, from the start, you know, I've always been around it. You know, my grandfather, as I was growing up as a kid, was well, I'd say he's a pretty big deal around the Detroit Red Wings organization. He was a color analyst for radio, and which at the time I had no idea. I just thought it was cool that I could go to the Red Wing games with him. And you know, it wasn't until a little bit later that I realized how important my grandfather was. And my grandfather's name was Sid Abel, centerman of the production line. And you know, just kind of growing up around that history and then kind of learning it as I go. You know, you take it for granted as a kid, and then you know, you're like, oh my God, I guess my gramps was a pretty big deal around here. I mean, you know, Stanley Cup winner, multiple times, league MVP, captain, coach, general manager. I mean, he did it all for the Red Wings organization, and he moved to Chicago and all that stuff. And so there was it's quite the history. And then obviously my mom falling for a goaltender, and my dad having played with Pittsburgh and St. Louis as a goalie, and it just kind of went from there. You know, he didn't throw me in goalie. This is the best part. He didn't throw me into goalie too early. He actually asked if I wanted to play when I was about 11 or 12 years old, and I was like, let's do it, and never looked back from there.
Growing up, did you have like a favorite player that you gravitated towards, or maybe once you transitioned into playing goal, was there a goalie you tried to model your game after at all?
I think because I played for, like, this is how silly it is. I played for the Farmington Flyers, so I liked everything Philadelphia Flyers back when I was growing up. I always loved the Red Wings at the time as well. You know, growing up just outside of Detroit, but something about the Flyers I was gravitated toward. I liked all the big names, for the Philly, all the big bruisers. But then when I turned and played goal, it was always Ron Hextall. I wanted to be Ron Hextall. Shoot the puck like Ron Hextall, be feisty like Ron Hextall, fight like Ron Hextall, all that stuff. And he's always been kind of that guy I always looked up to as a goaltender.
Talk about your junior career. Obviously, you're in the OHL with the Owen Sound,
Yeah.
and then we'll transition into your NHL career shortly after.
Sure.
But what was your junior career experience like?
It was different. Well, just prior to that, you know, I played like June, which is called Tier 2 junior for CompuWare in Detroit, and we were still at that point. We were like, what are we going to do? Are we going to go the collegiate route, or are we going to play junior and try and go play Major A somewhere? And it was the decision was simple. It was, where are you going to play more? And also, are you a student? Which I was not. So we chose the junior route, and it turned out kind of backfired if you look at it from a whole. My first year there, because it was a lockout year. So here I am as this little rookie 17-year-old kid, and then Jamie Storr comes back, Kevin Weeks comes back, and it's just like, whoa, wait a second here. I'm not going to play, am I? And for the first half of the season, until they got everything squared away in the NHL, that was basically how it was. I was kind of relegated to a third, if not fourth string goaltender to start off my junior career. So as much as I wanted to play more, oh man, there's going to be 66 games and I'd probably get the majority of them. And it ended up, no, my coach was, I remember Jerry Harrigan, my coach, he's like, you know what? We're not very good. I mean, this is not quote unquote, we're not very good, but I'm going to put you in against the best teams in the league. This is something that still resonates in my head. So I played like the powerhouses, like the North Bays, the Sudburys, getting all the work, 60 shots a game, blah, blah, blah. And it ended up working because that was my draft year, ended up working in my favor. From there, I played, I think I was like 3-9-1 or something my first year. And just got crushed every time I was out there. But one person, and that's how lucky it is, right? One person saw me play. And that was a scout for, at the time, Quebec Nordiques. And that's all it took. And they took a chance on me. I enjoyed the rest of my junior career. My next 2 years there, played a ton of games. Didn't have much success in the playoffs, but other than that, it was fantastic 3 years in junior in Owen Sound, a great city in the summer, a tough city in the winter. So, you know, you look for things to do there. Yeah, it was fantastic. And like I said, and this is for like a lot of kids out there. It's you can have the talent, you can have all that, the moxie and everything, but man, it truly takes sometimes the right place, right time. And yeah, because after junior, I was like, I might not be playing hockey again. I have no idea until I signed that NHL contract.
What was your draft experience like? You know, you talk about, hey, I may never play again, and then going into getting drafted to the NHL. What was that process like for you?
Well, it was big. You know, I being, you know, that first year in junior and then getting drafted that's next summer. It was huge. I wasn't expecting it. That was when the Nordique kind of transferred from Quebec into Colorado, and Colorado takes a shot, right? And the thing that kind of like stuck out to me was that they took another goaltender, Mark Denis, in the first round, 26th overall, I believe, if I'm right. So I was like, oh, not really going to get a fair look at there, you know. But went to training camp both years in Colorado and absolutely lit it up. I was on fire. You know, going in there with some like just, you know, some old names like Stefan Fissé and, you know, Mark Denis, who I love, is just an absolute tremendous guy. And then, you know, the following season was Patrick Waugh. And, you know, I'm like, come on, is this not the greatest thing? But I mean, I don't know if it's just in my head or what, but I felt like I was on the, I don't know, on the better side of what people were expecting of me, you know. And I continued to impress and in training camp. But that's where, guys, that's where I was just kind of like, after that second year in training camp, and then I played that last year in junior, I was just like, you know what? I don't know. There's not a spot in Colorado for me that's like a goalie mill there, you know. And it just took, you know, I was working in the summer with my dad, hammering nails, going construction sites with him, keeping busy, still getting on the ice from time to time, but more so I was like that. I was, you know, I was a 19-year-old and I was like, shit, is hockey done? I don't know, because it might not get a shake in Colorado. And then right then, it was like middle of the summer, and I remember it so vividly, gentlemen. My mom coming back from a work site with my dad, and my mom running. And this is how I'm dating myself, okay? My mom running outside on our porch, and she's screaming at the top of her lungs. We can't make out what she's saying. And she's like, guys, we got to get to a fax machine. We didn't have a fax machine back then. We didn't have much of anything, but we got to get to a fax machine because you've just been traded from Colorado to St. Louis, and they want to sign you to a 3-year deal. And And I was like, what? This is crazy. And it's like $450,000. What in the Sam hell am I going to do with that? Anyways, that's besides the point. It was just amazing that, things kind of worked the way they did. One thing, you think you're not playing, next thing you're signing, in my eyes, a pretty big contract for, the caliber of goaltender that I was. And, now going to training camp in St. Louis, and it was pretty remarkable, pretty awesome. And one of the main things is that my grandfather, who was still living at the time, my father, just the pride that they had for me was fantastic. It really was such a cool thing.
That's such an awesome story. So now I'm curious, like, you get to St. Louis, what are some of your like first memories of kind of like being welcome to that organization? Like, who are some of the first faces you saw when you get there and that kind of thing?
I mean, that was, those were the Brett Hall, the Al McInnes, the Chris Pronger, Pierre Turgeon days. I mean, this is some of the best hockey players to ever play the game were on this one team. I mean, it was eye-opening. It was surreal. And you look back and you think about those days, and I was like, man, I was just such a little, cocky, thought that I knew everything kid. And it was amazing. I played 3 years in the minors with some call-ups from time to time, playing a few games for St. Louis, but mostly in Worcester, Massachusetts, which another organization that I absolutely loved and adored, and they really took care of the guys. And St. Louis was another, just the bigger part of that was phenomenal. They were always great to the players. The organization was a classy organization, a class act, and I enjoyed my time there.
Some pretty stacked teams. Some of the names you just mentioned. That 01-02 season in particular, when I look at it, it's bringing back some great names from my early days. But you guys had a pretty good playoff run there. I mean, obviously, it looks like you run into the Detroit Red Wings, who are basically a team of all Hall of Famers in that era. Yep. You want to talk about that playoff run?
Well, yeah. I mean, so I got a taste. That was my second year in the league. My second full year in the league. My first year was behind Roman Turek, and towards the end of it was like we came up against powerhouses like every time. I mean, we had an unreal team, but there was Colorado back then and all of the cups, and then the start of Hockey Town in Detroit when they were just the Konstantinovs and the Fedorovs and the Eisermans and the list goes on and on. And that first year, I remember we're playing Colorado. We're down. I want to say we were down 3-1 in the series, and we're heading to Colorado for Game 5. And then the coach, or no, not actually the coach, Scott Mellenby comes to me on the plane. And now you got to remember, when you're basically with the Black Aces back then, I was not playing. I was second string. I was on the bench, but I was not playing. Roman Turek was playing every single game. And then Scott Mellenby comes up to me. Now, times have changed. This doesn't happen anymore, guys. All right. He says to me, hey, listen, I wouldn't go out tonight. Because we were finding somewhere to go out, have dinner and have some drinks and whatnot. Because like I said, you're a cockeyed kid, and you're just out there having a good time. He goes, because you might be playing tomorrow. And he told me that. And I remember Reed Lowe, who was the enforcer on our team. He was one of the Black Aces as well. And he said that I just went another shade of pale. Like the blood had rushed out of my face, and Yeah. So I was like, oh man, I'd never taken a sleeping pill before that, but I needed to. I took an Ambien for the first time, and by the way, it's the worst thing in the world. Those things, and tried to sleep, maybe got a couple hours sleep. We lost 2-1 in overtime, off a Joe Sakic deflection. And then my coach comes to me, Joel Quinville, and he says, I should have started you sooner. I should have started. And that kind of resonated with me. I was like, man, it would have been awesome if you did, because as soon as that game ended, I was like, I want those guys again. I want to play them again. Like, and obviously you season's over, go home, kid. That's about it. Going into that next year, and you remember, you said you were looking at how stacked our lineup was. You run into the powerhouse Detroit Red Wings again. And, we were thinking that, made it through Chicago in 5. Chicago was a pretty good club at the time. And then coming up against Detroit, we were thinking we had a really good shot, but they were absolutely dynamite in front of the net. I mean, talk about trying to see in front of some of these guys, Holmstrom's and friggin' Lidstrom blasting pucks from the point. They were just too good. They were absolutely amazing. And a good experience. Once again, wish we could have done more with that team back then, because we were so stacked. I mean, the list goes on. I mean, Scott Melleby, you had Keith Tkachuk, you had Pronger, McInnes, Scott Young, Turgeon. I mean, like you said, it was so good, and we thought we were kind of destined, and it didn't happen. But we stayed close. It was a close series, even though we lost. Anyways, long story short, we got our asses kicked.
I have to ask this question as I'm thinking of this, just some of the guys that you've played with. You ever had a broken hand from your glove? I mean, you've had some freaking slap shots against some of the guys that you've played with. I mean, McInnes, Pronger, Ovi, like.
Yes. Well, what was so great about McInnes, right? Al was like, he had an absolute rocket, but what made him so great is that he could get it off so damn quick. I mean, you got to remember, back in those days, you're transitioning from wood to aluminum. All right. And once he got that aluminum stick, his release was just like otherworldly. And I can remember a story of being called up, and I was just called up to back up a game. And I think I was backing up. Grant Fuhr was injured. I was backing up Jamie McLennan. And I'm out there in warm up and just taking shots. And Brett Hall comes in, and I just get lucky, right? I just get lucky with one. It kind of hits the tip of my glove and stays in. And he goes, I damn near ripped your wrist off, didn't I, son? And I was like, yeah, whatever. I had it all the time, but he did. It was like, he had that type of release. But yeah, you talk about some of the guys I was fortunate to play with, and it's just not about their shots, just about how headsy and smart they were. We talk about the defensemen in St. Louis, but Ovi and Backy and Semin here, these guys were so good. And then Crosby, I mean, it's another level of smarts in the game. And like I said, for me, from a guy that really didn't know if he'd have a shot playing in the NHL, to play with some of the best, if not the best in the modern era, so damn fortunate.
Out of all those guys, I mean, you mentioned them, they're so talented. Was there one that was just, head and shoulders above the rest? Like, this guy is so hard to stop when he's got the puck where he wants to shoot it from?
Yeah. Well, I ran into a few of those guys where you just like look at them like they're just natural scorers, right? Yeah. They're just, for some reason, it just seems to go in, whether it's the release or the way they disguise the release or the way they're shooting in stride. Well, around the net, there's no one better than Sidney Crosby around the net. Like, if you put him in a tight spot, he is forehand, backhand before, and you look, and I remember just doing drills with him and being like, there's no flipping way. But I didn't say flipping. I was like, there's no way you can do that fast. and so he was so good. I used to, and Ovi scored on me a couple times when I played with Pittsburgh. But I used to absolutely own Ovi in practice. I mean, that not in games, in practice. And I could basically, sense where he was going to shoot every time, and he wanted that top glove every time, and just take it away easily. But Ovi is another thing. It's like, talk about those two guys, just, from Washington and Pittsburgh, and how that rivalry started and how unbelievable it was. Still is in my eyes, even though they're getting longer in the tooth. I get that question all the time. Who's better? Ovi's just a natural goal scorer. It just goes in. It's just, and Sidney Crosby is he's a mechanic, I would say. He puts in so much work to better himself. He's the last one out there. And I know that that's cliche and you hear that all the time, but he really does. He'll be out there working on draws or working on something until every guy gets off the ice. And that's just the way he's been. And so I would say if we're talking about those two guys, I would say from a standpoint of all around, Sidney Crosby is probably the best hockey player I've ever played with or against. And Alex Ovechkin is the greatest goal scorer I ever played with or against. I know you guys didn't ask me that question, but I just threw it in there.
Yeah,
I just threw it in there anyways.
Anyone that got to play against those two, though, that's just an otherworldly experience.
It is. I mean, I can't tell you how grateful, just looking back, like, God, like how lucky.
So I'm sorry to cut you off. I thought for sure you were the only goalie to play with both of them. There's only one other, and he only did it for one season each, Thomas Vokoun.
Oh, Vokes. Yeah, that's right. Because Vokes actually came to Pittsburgh, I believe, after I retired. He was in Pittsburgh for a season. God, what was that, 12? Or was 13. That 12, 13? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he's a heck of a goalie too. That is pretty cool. Yeah. And I wasn't, by the way, I wasn't like saying, oh, I'm like so cool because I got to play with them. No, I would very, very, very fortunate. And the best thing about it right now is that I can still call both of them my friends. And I think that's the greatest thing, and taking that with me till the grave.
All right. So nice segue into your tenure with the Caps there. Obviously your first year there, same year as OV rookie year. And that, I mean, being a young Caps fan at that time, I remember just going to games and there's no one there, and it's just dark times for the franchise. But you could sense, we're coming out of this. And what was kind of your memories of like getting to Washington and just kind of the overall like the attitude there in the locker room and the fan base and everything?
So this was a year after the I can't remember if it was, I believe it was a lockout again in 04-05.
Yep.
And so I was one of the dumb idiots because I had been traded to, before that I had been traded to Phoenix, and I'd lived there from St. Louis. And so I was one of the idiots that I was like, oh, you know what? This isn't going to last long. And then I had something kind of going where I was going to go play in Europe for a while. Next thing you know, snatched up a goalie already going there. And then I had another gig that I was going to go somewhere. Brian Boucher's there. You know what I mean? And it was just kind of happened. So as soon as that was like, man, now the whole season's gone. What in the absolute hell? And so I was getting on the ice sparingly. So I signed I don't know. I can't remember if it was a PTO or something like that, like for the Vancouver Canucks going into that 05-06 season, I believe it was. And then right away get picked up on waivers by Washington. Like you said, Mac, this was an organization that was kind of flailing and falling, but they had something up in the rafters, right? They had something ready to go. His name was Alex Ovechkin. And so I get here, man, a bunch of characters. These freaking guys were fantastic. I mean, just the Matt Bradleys, the Sotheby's, the Climbers, list goes on.
Jamie Heward on that team too. There were some
Husey. Are you kidding me? He was fantastic. He had, talking about a cannon. That kid had a freaking cannon. Yeah, and he's doing great where he is right now coaching. Yeah, and just like, beauties in hockey lingo, all these guys are absolute beauties. I would hope they'd call me a beauty as well. But yeah, a lot of fun. We were subpar. I was absolutely terrible for about the first half of the season. Now, you got to remember, I'm playing with one of the best goaltenders to ever play the game, and Ole Kolzig. So once again, he was in my wedding, a guy that I am so grateful to call my friend, and, union partners in crime. But that year, again, it was just so weird how it happened that we were, just crumbling every time we stepped on the ice. It was 6 goals against, or going into Buffalo, getting pulled, and they were crap too. It was just like, it couldn't have been worse. But then something clicked at the end of the season, or near the end. I would say it was about February. And then I went like on a 9-0-2 run, or no, there was no can't remember. Yeah, no, there were shootouts back then. Jesus. But and then that afforded me to get another contract because I was so good towards the end of the season. But then, yeah, got to see, number 8 just blossom. I mean, we already knew he was going to be absolutely fantastic, but
50 as a rookie though.
Right.
It's insane.
Isn't it?
Weren't you in net for the crazy goal against
the goal?
Yep,
the goal.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Wayne Gretzky on the bench. It's a good story. I'm sure you've heard it, the guys you've interviewed, but I'll tell you what, that weekend out west, we were lighting it up. I mean, rookie party. I had guys over to my house in Arizona. We had a huge party there. It was crazy. But I remember Glenn Hanlon said to us, listen, because this is the famous, and I don't know, have you guys heard the famous limo on the tarmac? Have any of you guys heard that yet?
I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't know. Enlighten us. We love a good story on this show. So
all right, so we're getting off after I think we played LA, and we won. We beat LA, and I know Ole was in net, and so like Jeff Halpern, captain at the time, he says, all right, just talk to Glenny, and he said, if you guys are going to do this, he's going to need he's going to need ammunition. So you guys are going to have to win. All right. You guys are going to have to win. So we just crush LA. And then we're going into Arizona. And I called my buddy there. I was like, hey, listen. All right. And you got to remember, this is in front of the coaches and everything. I was like, order us a limo. All right. Order us a limo, have it meet us on the tarmac. So my buddy literally did. He's like, the limo's there. There's this huge limo. We're packed in there, probably about 15 dudes. All right. The older guys went back to the hotel, Kolzig, Brendan Witt. But all the young guys packed in And it was probably one of the most unbelievable scenes. People can't believe it to this day. Limo outside, bus right next to it, coaches, everyone going by as we're drinking champagne, getting on a friggin' like, is unheard of. And Halpy's like, don't worry, guys, I got it taken care of. Glenny's gonna go for it. It's gonna be fine. So we just like, see you guys. We're getting in. We're going back. We're going to a party. Gonna light it up. And then a couple days later, after that was we had a rookie party there in Arizona. A couple days later, we just absolutely smoked Arizona 6-1, and that was the famous goal. And yeah, I was at the other end, and I couldn't believe it went in. But just one of those things in hockey, and especially today, that shit ain't happening.
Absolutely not now. Oh my God.
Exactly.
One of those guys you mentioned from the Caps days, Alex Semin. Obviously, we've heard some hilarious stories about him on and off the ice. Do you have any like funny stories that stick out or any good memories of him?
Oh, I mean, there trust me, there's many. I got a story where I was I never drove with any of like the other guys. I always drove myself to, like, we had a game at the time, I think it was just Capital One Center, or no, I'm sorry, it was Verizon Center. And I didn't drive. For some reason, I didn't drive down to the game. But we're heading out. We're heading to I don't know where we were going after, but we had a game the next night. And I was like, I'm either going with Ovi or I'm going with Semin. Right? So I was like, all right, I get in Semin's car, and then on Constitution, I'm not kidding, on Constitution, and it's late, so there's not a lot of cars after the game, and no one was going to the games back then anyways. So he's going through from stoplight to stoplight, getting her up to about 90, 100 miles an hour.
In DC, which is
in DC. And Ovi is right next to them. Both of them had these new Mercedes AMGs.
Yep.
And they were racing from stoplight to stoplight. And the car pulls a cop pulls up behind Ovi and ends up pulling us over. Ovi gets away scot-free. We get pulled over. I'm thinking, they're going to take this guy's license away. There's no way doing 100 miles an hour on Constitution is going to be cool and legit. But I don't know if the guy knew him or what, but let him off with a warning and just said to slow down or something like that. And I'm just like, you lucky motherfucker. You are. I was like, there is no way. They are locking me up and throwing away the key if that happens to me. So yeah, Alex was, stories about him off the ice. There are many, but on the ice, like, probably one of the most talented guys. I don't think he got the credit he was due. But I think talent really doesn't show heart. You know what I mean? And that's probably what, if there were, something against him from the coaching staff or wherever it was we want more emotion and we want more passion in it. And because you can be as good as they come, but or as talented as they come, but man, you got to show a little bit of emotion out there, and you got to show a little heart and a lot of try. And I think that was probably, if I'm guessing, one of his major downfalls. But still, one of the funnest guys to be around, and one of the best hockey players.
For sure. You just don't want him showing heart when he's fighting.
Oh yeah. Who was that against again? I forget. Who was that fight against? You guys know?
The bongo drum. I think it
was the
drum.
Rangers, right? Was it Mark Stahl?
That sounds right. Maybe
that does sound right. Yeah,
could be.
Just slapping him. I love it. Yeah, he was. Yeah, I mean, he heard it from other guys as well on that too.
for sake of time, I know we could talk the Washington days all day long, but
Yeah.
I'm the Pens fan on the podcast, so selfishly,
Oh,
All
there
right,
he
go
is.
ahead, buddy.
All right,
Go
let's
ahead. Go
go.
ahead.
well, no, I'm gonna transition it because you're talking about Ovi and Semin. You get to play with the Russian phenoms in their prime. In your Pittsburgh years, Sid goes down with the concussion, and I mean Malkin just took over the league by storm in his absence. I would love to hear what your experience was like, not only in Pittsburgh, but backing up Fleury and playing with Gino in his prime. What was all that like?
Another organization where you went down. You talk about Stahl, how Jordan Stahl was just unbelievable. Gino was unbelievable. Chris Kunitz in front of the net. I mean, this guy didn't go elbows, but nobody he reminds me of a modern day Gino Cicerelli. Sorry, Gino, not Gino. Dino Cicerelli, my bad. But that's like just so hard to move in front of the net. I mean, there were times in Pittsburgh, and where we were just like, man, everybody's out. We had at the time, Sid was out. We had Gino out like all at the same time. Stahl was out, and we still kept on winning and finding ways to win. Part of that was the unbelievable play of Marc-Andre. But yeah, Gino's one of those guys that can call his shot. Like he is accurate with, and especially over the pad right for a goalie, just under the blocker. He could call that shot every single time. A heck of a board battler as well. But I mean, just look at it today. I mean, both Sid and him are still cooking. You know what I mean, with dynamite, and they're doing awesome there. Team's not doing that great, but those two gentlemen are. Gino's a fantastic, funny mofo. I mean, just you come in and just like, what do you want? Just it is this music fucking suck, Johnny. Because I played all the music, and he hated everything that wasn't house music. They the Russian guys, the Europeans, they love their house music, and
You're a rock guy, right? Metallica, Zeppelin.
I am. Zeppelin was. I mean, I played everything for these guys just to be fair. But I couldn't stand when I had to play like house music or some garbage shit like that. But I did it to appease them. Not often, but I did to appease them. But yeah, Gino's. I mean, we're just fucking trash, terrible. Johnny, you're fired. Like he'd say shit like that all the time. Another guy we didn't mention, and another guy who's still friggin' cooking. There's Chris Letang. He was early on in his career. Had already won a cup before I got there, but I mean, just another guy who can skate like the wind. Unbelievably headsy player, and tough as nails. Loved having him as a defenseman there. And like I said, I can't, for hockey players, and you guys know hockey. I mean, I'd have to really, really think of a guy I didn't like. I mean, maybe in all of my career, and it was in junior, it was like Sean Avery. He was just a dick.
That kind of checks out, though.
That does check out.
Yeah,
I mean, and it's not. You know what? Whatever. I definitely don't like. He is the person he is, right? It's never going to change. I mean, I have Sean Avery stories that just kind of, it's just different. It's just a different guy, and that's fine, right? That's fine. We all have our differences, but he may be the only one that I didn't like really, kind of coagulate with. Everyone else is just fantastic, dude, and you just want to be around them.
Yeah, I feel like in general, most of the guys in the locker room, in a hockey locker room, you're probably going to get along with. There might be those oddballs, but I do have to ask you, because I'm sure you've gotten this question 1,000 times, but one of the most famous highlights in your Pittsburgh career, the fight with DiPietro.
Yeah.
If you wouldn't mind just diving into like what it went into that, and then Mac was telling us this before the show. The reaction from Fleury afterwards is probably one of the most genuine reactions you've ever seen in a game. Really,
I know. Yeah, to still see that clip and to see his reaction after, and the reaction of all the guys on the bench, truthfully, but Flower, because he didn't, he's just in his hat and he's just absolutely howling on the bench, was pretty badass. But the story is, there's not much to the story. I didn't have any ill will toward Rick DiPietro. We were up 3-0 with 16 or under 16 seconds left to play. And he kind of clips Cook. He kind of clips Cookie, and Cookie goes flying. Now, at the time, I don't know. Cookie could sell anything, right? Like, I don't know if he's bullshitting or not. But actually, after looking at it, he really did hit him pretty good. And so I was like, man, there's only 15 seconds. We're up 3-0. Who gives a shit? Let's go. And going down there, I was first off thinking, how am I going to get around the ref? And then second off thinking, all right, he's a lefty. He catches silly side. So he's a silly sider. So now I'm going to have to grab him with my right. And then just, it's just one of those, you just grab, and I'm a lot lankier than he is. He's a little bit smaller. So my fist got to his face first. And unfortunate that, like as much as I'd like to say, oh my God, it's so cool that I, broke somebody's face, or whatever, but he's an American guy. And it wasn't like I was sitting there to reporters being like, I told him he shouldn't have messed with me or something. I wasn't doing that. I was trying to be as humble about it as I could. And, and I think that's maybe where hockey guys kind of, we don't get ourselves pushed into the mainstream as much because we're more humble than the other major professional sports. Whereas if I was just like, yeah, I told that son of a bitch he ever tries that shit again, I'm like, no, that would have been awesome if I would have, but no, that's not how it happened at all. But that fight, even as cool as it was, and the fans, it was packed. We won 3-0, another W, which is great. Marc-Andre Fleury's reaction, but at the time, I didn't know that a couple games later, we're going to go into Long Island and have an absolute slugfest. And that was probably one of the funnest games, even though we got absolutely lit up that game. Everything was going in. Didn't matter what they did or what we did. They were scoring, and they were so riled up because of that fight and what I did to DiPietro. And I remember coach coming to me and saying, all right, you're going to play in Long Island. I was like, you gotta be kidding, right? They're going to be out for blood. They pull in like all their friggin' tough guys. I mean, just stack the bench. And so our guys are going down left and right. Everyone's in the penalty box or everyone's hurt and out. Tangrady's friggin' down on the ice.
I remember that.
Gillies is yelling
Trevor
at him.
Gillies.
Yeah, from off the ice. He gets back on the ice. It was just one of those. And then I call out Michael Haley as he's going to the penalty box. And that I wish Eric Goddard, God, I love him. Another unbelievable, fantastic man. Eric Goddard jumps the bench. So he's already looking at a 10-game suspension. I don't know why he's jumping the bench, because I would have handed that little Michael Haley his lunch. Well, at least I think I would have. I don't know if I would have. But like it's just one of those. You didn't have to do that. That would have been such an epic performance because we were getting smoked and we needed something to, or I needed something to feel good about. But no, we just ended up doing a little do-si-do with Goddard and Haley, and nothing really came of it. but fun times nonetheless.
That's too good. I remember that game like it was yesterday. It's funny you mentioned that.
I mean, there was like 4 guys left on either bench. It was awesome.
Yeah.
Old time hockey.
Yes, sir. Well, we won't hold you too much longer. It sounds like with all these stories, we're gonna have to get you on again sometime soon. But last thing I want to ask you, obviously, you're doing broadcast stuff with the Caps now.
Yeah.
And I saw a video from like the Penguins Jumbotron I managed to find. It was like they asked you 5 questions or something like that. And
oh, Jesus.
They said, like, what would you be doing if you weren't in hockey? And you said, I'd be working in hockey and media or something like that. That's what I want to do. So I just want to know what's it been like for you, being on TV and doing that stuff with the Caps.
Well, trust me, I put my foot in my mouth just as much as you can possibly imagine being on the telecast. So they use me sparingly. But I never really, when I retired in 2012, when I retired in 2012, I was like, I want to stay close to the game. I want to stay close to the guys as much as I can. And so I looked to Pittsburgh, and I was still in Pittsburgh, and I was like, maybe I'll see if I can get on a couple of broadcasts, talk about goaltenders or whatever. And then nothing really panned out there. There wasn't much they could do. They had their team in place. And then I called Bill Bell here with, at the time, I believe it was Comcast. And I was like, hey, Billy, would it be all right if I, traveled down and did a couple shows trying to get into the telly side of the sport and do some analyst work? And he's like, oh, that'd be great. And I told him at the time, I was like, we can do like a segment on goalies, and that would be like my thing. Now, little did I know that transitioned into I was going to be talking about everything under the sun when it came to the Washington Capitals. But I love what I do. And the limited amount of time that I'm on, I still get nervous before I go on. I want to do it right. And I want to get it right, and being as accurate as possible. But it's just, it's fun, and it keeps me close to the guys. I get to see the boys still after, before and after games, and that's a cool side. So, it's a tough gig, I will say. At least, I think it is. Nothing rolls off the tongue for me. Like a guy like Alan May, he can talk to the side of a barn for an hour, have a good conversation. But that's just the way he is. And for me, I could talk about goalies anytime you wanted and have a lot to say. But I really enjoy it. I'm grateful that they've kept me on for these almost 12 years now. And like I said, doing it sparingly, but it's a lot of fun. And on the other side of that, Mac, the most rewarding thing that I'm doing right now is teaching young goaltenders. That's and getting on the ice with these kids, seeing them progress. Listen, I've been doing it since I retired, and I've seen some goalies flourish, go on to good schools and keep playing, or major junior, that I've worked with, and it's so rewarding, and it's fantastic. I love all the kids that I get on. You get to see yourself as that goalie back in the day, and it's really cool. Like I said, there's nothing like it, and especially if they succeed and really, really enjoy it.
Last question for me, just, from the goaltenders that are in the NHL right now that are at the, the top of the list, the cream of the crop, is there one that jumps out to you that's just head and shoulders far above the rest?
So, I mean, there's lots. I would have said probably a couple of years, I would have said probably Shesterkin. I would have said, just because he had that monumental run with New York. And then I would have said Vasilevsky, but then now he's had that back surgery, and I mean, he's been so unbelievable. If you could be like him, yes, that would be the goalie to kind of mold yourself after. I really like Connor Hellebuck. Really like him. Thatcher Demko. These are bigger guys, big goalies. But I really like the kid also. in Nashville is a UC Soros, and for a little guy, and just how agile and acrobatic he is, and he makes things, for being a smaller goalie, he makes it look so easy in there and simplistic. And then there's one for my Pittsburgh guy there, Marc-Andre Fleury. I still will say that he is the GOAT in my heart forever. He is. I only, like, I mean, come on. Second most wins in history, 1,000 games played. Let's go. Let's have a parade when he's done. Hopefully not for a couple of years. But this guy deserves everything. I'll be completely honest. He is the hardest working goaltender and probably the best goaltender I ever played with.
I love hearing that. Well, I think that's all we got for you, Brent. And it's Valentine's Day and you're recording with us, so we definitely appreciate that as well.
Hey, you know what? We got our Valentine's Day dinner out of the way on Monday, so we're like good, all good. So no worries whatsoever, gentlemen. Thank you so much for having me on.
Yeah, absolute
Awesome.
pleasure.
Yeah, we'll do it again sometime. Thanks, Brent.
All right, guys, take care.
Hey, huge thanks to Brent Johnson for joining us. Thought that was a really fun interview. Hopefully y'all enjoyed that. Get a nice little ex-NHLer action for the 200th episode. So it's always nice.
Yeah, absolutely. And just such a cool guy. I know we touched on music taste a little bit with him with the Zeppelin mask, and we talked about the history with his grandfather, which is just so cool. Especially, like, I love that hockey history kind of stuff. So that was a ton of fun.
Yeah, just a total hockey family in the truest sense. But yeah, just one more shout out to Brent for coming on. Really appreciate that.
All righty. Well, let's get into the NHL news, and then we'll move into discussion, gambling, and some 200th episode celebratory notes. The streak is over after we posted a YouTube video bashing the Oilers and got ripped apart by half of Alberta. All of a sudden, the streak is over.
The comment section was not happy.
Yeah, you kind of teed them off a little bit.
It is absolutely comical, though. Like, I was losing my mind laughing at some of the stuff on there.
Not worried about it.
No, people will comment anything negative and they will never comment anything positive. That's just how it is.
Like, I do love when it's personal, because then it's like, now you're just grasping at straws. Like, now I've pissed you off to the point where you have nothing else to say.
It's also funny because we had like the Denny 4,500 thing with the Vancouver Canucks like a couple of years ago. That was one guy. Yeah. We just awoke like an army of like Oilers Denny 4,500.
Yeah. If you're an OG listener, you know what Mac is talking about. But yes, we've pissed off Winnipeg about a month ago. We pissed off all of Edmonton just recently. But Vegas beats the Oilers 3-1 to hand them their first loss in 50 calendar days. The streak ends at 16 and will go down as the second longest in NHL history, behind the Pittsburgh Penguins in 1993, who still hold the record at 17.
Yeah, I don't think that week off did any of those players any favors.
I mean, that was their first game back after All-Star break, if I'm not mistaken. So obviously that was a little too good to be true in terms of the scheduling and the way that all worked. But
and not saying they didn't play well. It's just, it's just the way it goes when you've got that much momentum and you're firing on all cylinders, and you take a week off and half the guys are in some, exhibition stick handling contest in Toronto and the other half are in Mexico or on a beach in the Bahamas.
Yeah. So shout out to Vegas for jacking that up, because I would have hated for them to break that streak, and then we help our YouTube enemy army gain some traction there. But in other news, Connor Bedard is back at practice in a non-contact jersey. He's expected to return to the lineup sometime next week. I think it is worth noting for those who like to dabble in the FanDuel or DraftKings world, he is still minus 190 to win the Calder, which I think is a pretty outrageous odd considering he hasn't played in a month. I think it is also worth noting second behind him is Brock Faber of the Minnesota Wild at plus 370, who many are saying should be the front runner. And then Luke Hughes in third at plus 700.
Yeah, I like the Faber pick a lot. I mean, 370 is great value right now, especially considering I think, with Fantilli, Carlson, and Bedard all being hurt. you would think it's got to go to someone who finishes the season. And Faber's had to put so much on his shoulders with that depleted mini blue line.
Yeah, he's got 4 goals and 29 assists and is a +5 in 52 games so far. I picked him up off the waiver wire in fantasy early on. I didn't really know much about him, did some research, decided to snag him, and man, he has been unbelievable for my squad. So I definitely think Faber should be getting some votes. I think he will get some votes.
Yeah, absolutely. He was unreal with the Gophers last year. I mean, when we were watching him in the Frozen Four, I know all of us were saying this kid will be an absolute stud in the NHL at some point.
And this is just your reminder that this weekend is the NHL Stadium Series. We will tell you because the NHL will not. I have not seen one advertisement for this on anywhere. ESPN, TNT, NHL Network. I don't see anything.
As I was reading through these notes this morning to like make sure I was ready for the episode, it was like the first I had heard of it. I was like, oh, okay. Thanks for the reminder because I did not know.
You could have told me it was in April. I would have been like, yeah, sure, that sounds right.
Yeah, stay hot, NHL. The Devils take on the Flyers at 8 p.m. on Saturday night, and then the Rangers take on the Islanders at 3 p.m. on Sunday afternoon. Our good friend of the program, Mark Corderaro, might be going live on our Instagram for that one. He will be in attendance at the game. I would say cheering on the Rangers, but probably more so just frantically booing the Islanders in typical New York fashion. So
just a combination of incoherent yelling and hand gestures.
yes. And then I saw this on Twitter. I didn't believe it was real. And I don't know if you guys saw this, but it's the Fanatics Sucks page. So I'm just going to say it's real because that guy's hilarious. The NHL and Fanatics are not guaranteeing delivery of Stadium Series jerseys prior to the game, even if you ordered by the deadline that they specified. They issued a statement and apologized.
They're also not guaranteeing that the player's name you ordered will be spelled correctly.
Or will be right side up.
Right.
Any of the above. That's hilarious that they simply issued a statement and apologized.
Our bad.
We're sorry. But we won't. Yeah. We're not going to fix it though.
We apologize for any inconvenience that you spent for these $300 jerseys. By the way, did you guys see this? Because I retweeted today from the account. The Flyers are selling a coach's edition jacket, like the old school leather jacket, for $850.
That's actually, believe it or not, that's actually pretty customary for like winter classics and outdoor games. Almost every team, maybe not almost every, but I know the Caps have done it, and a lot of other teams have sold those giant bomber jackets that the coaches wear.
Sick.
And they're like somewhere every time they're somewhere between like $500 and $800. They're like
don't get me wrong, it looks unreal, but $850.
It's because they probably A, are not going to make that many of them, and B, they're never going to sell them again after the
I get it.
I'm not justifying it. I'm just saying that,
it's worth more than the fucking ticket.
It's basically like selling a like collector's item or whatever, but
yeah, it's something that Philadelphia businesses, like executives, will get each other as like a bonus gift, or someone will get it for like their husband as like a early Christmas or birthday present, and it's going to get hung on the wall or stuck in the back of the closet, worn twice, and that's it.
Yep, exactly.
And then passed on to the grandkid. This was your grandfather's.
There you go.
That's what you're paying $850 for.
And then the grandkid just wears it to like Darties in college or something.
And then accidentally like leaves it on like a chair.
Yeah, right.
Some girl ends up
lets a girl take it home.
Yeah. Oh God, no! The cycle of life, right there in a nutshell. All righty. Well, we're moving on to the St. Louis Blues. In case you didn't know, they are 7-3 in their last 10 games. They've leaped into 4th place in the Central Division, and they now hold on to that second wild card spot in the West. They leap the Predators, Flames, Kraken, and Wild, all for that wild card race, and they are tied in points with the LA Kings. Fun fact. Offensively, they've struggled most of the season as they're averaging under 3 goals for per game, but in their last 5 games, they have scored 18 goals. Not too shabby for them. We all know the big guns: Buchnevich, Saad, Shen, Kyrou, all those guys, Thomas. But I want to give a shout out to Jake Neighbors. He's got goals in 3 of his last 6 games. 18 on the year. He's been really good for the Blues this season.
Best fantasy pickup I have made all season. Him and Shen together are both unreal for me lately.
you gonna get in the playoffs with them though?
Gonna need some help from both of you. So, your division is all clean and tidy. Mine is an absolute clusterfuck of who's trying to scramble for this last playoff spot between three boys. So it's gonna get rough.
Gonna give sorry, Mac.
Oh, I was just gonna say that Jake Neighborino is Ned Flanders' favorite NHL player. Fun fact.
I want to give a shout out to Torrey Krug, had a 5-assist game on Sunday night against Montreal. And also Jordan Bennington, don't look now, but he's won 4 of his last 5 starts, and he's only allowed 8 goals in that span. So Blues are heating up. They're taking on Toronto tonight as plus 180 underdogs. I know a lot of people were hopping on that. I think if the Blues are at plus money right now, it's a smart move to ride them.
Shout out Torrey Krug. Go green. That Sparty's had an unreal last couple of games.
For sure. Fly through some injuries and suspensions, and then we'll move on to discussion. Thomas Hertl is out several weeks after undergoing a surgical procedure to remove loose cartilage from his left knee. And then tough injury for Mikhail Sergachev. I'm sure most of you listening saw this. It kind of went viral. He's out for the season due to a fractured tibia and fibula, which is just brutal to say out loud. He has 2 goals on the season, 19 points through 34 games with Tampa. Been battling some real injury problems here recently. Feel bad for him. Instagram post that you could tell he poured his heart into. So definitely prayers up for Sergachev and a speedy recovery.
I've always liked this guy since he came into the league. Watched him a bit in Windsor. Won a Memorial Cup with Jeremy Bracco and juniors. And I mean, I feel so bad for this guy. I know it's the Bolts and none of us really like the Bolts, but I mean, this guy has had so many injury problems in like the last 2 calendar years, and it was gruesome to watch. I mean, it was like kind of like a not really contact. He fell on it the wrong way. Skate gets caught under the body, and then there's just nothing you can do at that point. And I winced like 5 or 6 times watching that. So best wishes to him, and hopefully he gets back as soon as he can.
For sure. Yeah, the worst part is just like the why me part of it, like you just feel for any athlete, really. It's just the most frustrating thing to like know in the moment. You're like, holy shit, my season just ended. Like it in that moment for sure. I've been there. We all been there. And there's just no worse feeling than just like, yep, I'm fucked. Like here goes the worst 8 months of recovery ever.
Yes.
Can't wait. Like, yeah, it's frustrating. I feel for him.
Yeah, for sure. I have confidence he'll be back strong in maybe next season or
He's
halfway through next season.
young too, 25.
Yep.
I thought he
Yeah.
was like 26 or 28.
I know, it feels like he's been playing forever.
Yeah, I know he broke in super young, so hopefully
And
that
he's
helps.
already got 2 cups, so
Right.
Yeah, not too shabby.
Hopefully that helps with the recovery process.
Yeah, for sure. All right, suspensions. We've got 3 to fly through. I'm going to read all 3, and then I want to ask you which one you think was the worst. We have Brendan Dillon, who has been suspended 3 games for his hit to the head on Noel Achari. Achari is now on IR. I think that's worth noting. Nikita Zadorov has been suspended 2 games for his hit to the head on Detroit's Lucas Raymond. And then Matt Grzelcyk was given a 5-minute major in game misconduct for spearing Max Pacioretty, what looked like, based on the video, in the face or neck. Or no, am I wrong?
balls
In the
nuts.
balls. Like,
Balls, sorry.
Yeah.
I thought I just watched it and I was having trouble seeing. I was like, where did he? I saw that he speared him, but anyways, which of the 3 did you guys think was the worst, or are these all justified? What do you think?
I have a lot actually to say about this. So it's tricky. The Dylan and the Zadorov ones are both kind of similar. They're both like hits to the head. One gets 3 games, one gets 2 games. I've seen comments on both of them saying like kind of trying to blame the victim, being like, oh, keep your head up, or like something along those lines or whatever. I think regardless of like any like keep your head up thing, or like, yeah, can't watch your pass. To me, the Raymond one is a big case of he's watching his pass after he passes it, and he's not looking at the guy who's about to get hit or who's about to hit him. Regardless of all that, the NHL is they're clearly trying to remove this hit from the game by saying we don't really care if it's on the player or whatever. Like, they're making it be on the player who's making the hit, if that makes sense. Like,
I think a good analogy for this would be the roughing the passer thing in the NFL, where, you know, the defensive lineman is running at the quarterback as fast as that 300-pound man can physically move.
yep.
And all of a sudden the quarterback throws the ball and now this man has to put the brakes on.
Yeah. It's similar.
That's a great analogy.
It really just comes down to like in the Brendan Dillon one, yes, like Noah Chart, you could make the argument that Achari, like he's smaller, his head's going to be lined up with his shoulder or whatever. I think the NHL is basically just trying to come out and say, it doesn't matter. If you're Brendan Dillon, you have to find a way to either not hit his head or don't make the hit. Like we don't care if it's your fault or not. That's essentially, to me, if you look at all the suspensions they've dealt out this year, and especially these two, that's kind of the statement that I think DOPS is trying to make.
I think that was well worded. And as a Pens fan, I can even tell you, I mean, when I watched the Achari hit, I did not watch it live, but I've seen the replays 1,000 times. Where's he skating to? Like, he kind of ran like into the wall. And at that point, when Dylan like lines him up, he's against him. I'm like, well, you're going to get your bell rung. Like,
one things is going to happen right now. So
yeah. I mean, listen, I get
it's Brendan Dillon, like,
and it's Brendan Dillon. So no, Mac, I echo everything you said. I also just watched the replay of the Grizzly thing. I was blind, I guess, earlier. That's brutal. Like,
so
that
important context for the Grizzly one, because there's so many people in the comments of that one, and I promise I'm not just being a homer here. Like, hear me out. There's so many people in the comments of that one saying like, oh, it was unintentional, but it's still spearing, so you got to give him a game or whatever. It was most certainly intentional, because if you look at like about 15 seconds before it happens, Pacioretty has kind of a questionable hit on Grizzly. You might call it a board. He didn't really hit the boards. It was near the boards. It was kind of an awkward push from behind kind of hit. I thought it was fine personally. Maybe you can call me a homer for that part of my rant here. But regardless,
it's also Max Pacioretty. It's not Brendan Dillon.
Yeah, and Grizzly pops right back up. He's fine, but I guess he just didn't like the hit. But as soon he literally gets up from the hit, comes right around the net and spears him. So like, how are you going to tell me that's not intentional? It happened 15 seconds later after that guy hits you and you didn't like it. It's like, yeah, to me, I think probably should get like a game. I thought the refs did a great job tossing him and giving him 5.
It's the right call.
Right call, definitely.
And I think you make a great point about skating around the net, going right up to Patches, and just trying to lift the guy up by the taint, basically, with his hockey stick.
Literally.
Also, I just watched the Achari replay again. So I'm watching it as I say this. He skates into the wall, and then when they put it in slow-mo, he sees the hit coming, and he leans forward, which brings his head down. He's trying to like truck him, and he just gets fucking
his head. It's graphic. His head like spins around.
Almost. It was bad. Like, I saw that one like 5 minutes after it happened because someone tweeted it. I was like, oh, that might be a lot.
It's really bad. Also, I will say with the Zadorov Raymond one, and then we can move on from this, but with that one, yes, Raymond is absolutely watching his pass, like I said before, but holy chicken wing, like Zadorov.
Oh my god,
holy crap!
A little bingo.
The elbow is literally like chicken danced out. It's crazy.
It's ironic that one got 2 games and Dylan got 3, because and I'm saying this as a Penguins fan, I think the Zadorov one is worse
for sure. That has to be a history
also
thing,
like
right? For Dilly
too. Yeah, it could be.
To be honest, I don't know, but we're not done with the suspension talk yet, folks, because we are moving on to the discussion portion of the episode that took over the internet, and I can't wait to hear some of these.
I had non-hockey. Answers. You know, it's bad when non-hockey fans are asking you, what the hell's going on with this guy? And he took a slap shot into an open net, or what?
Yeah, so we have the Morgan Riley and Ridley Gregg situation. Riley cross-checking in the face of Gregg, wound up and took a slap shot at the empty net as the game was winding down. Sheldon Keefe called Riley's reaction appropriate. Similar situation actually happened back in 2015 with Ryan Kessler. I know Missing Curfew tweeted that out. Go check out their Twitter if you haven't yet. And it comes out that Riley has been given a 5-game suspension. Before we start, the quote of the week, and I sent this to you guys, from Ryan Reeves is make hockey violent again. I'll get that tattooed on me. I thought that
I
was
think
great.
he was also quoted as saying that had this incident happened when he first came into the league, that Greg would still be on the ice right now.
Yep. And by the way, I saw such a good tweet. I can't remember who tweeted it, so sorry, but it was something like Ryan Reeves is like 82-0 in hypothetical scenarios. It's so true. He always wants to be like, I'm just saying, next time I see that guy.
Yeah. It's also like the most like 5th year senior thing to do.
Yes. Yeah.
It's like,
literally.
yeah.
It's
So
like,
back in
okay,
when I was
buddy.
a freshman,
Yes. Yes.
So I gotta ask you guys, what's Nick? You started off. What's your overall opinion on this?
So I think we can all agree there's a code in hockey, right? We've talked about this with fighting. We have fighting in the game to police the things that don't get called. This game moves at 300 miles an hour. It's a 2-pound rubber disc. It's guys flying around at 20 miles an hour with knives on their feet. Shit's gonna happen. Guys are gonna get hit. People are gonna get hurt. Whatever.
First of all, what an explanation about the game of hockey.
Thank you.
That was awesome.
Also, hockey players in general, there's a little bit of, rooster mentality going on with some hockey players in general. You've got to be confident to do this at a high level. You've got to be confident to do this at the NHL level. I personally would not have wound up and taken a slap shot on an empty cage. I think would have been way more better is literally walked it into the cage and stared down the bench on a flyby on the way back. Yeah. My reaction to Riley is I don't think cross-checking the guy in the face was the right move. If you're that pissed about it, shed him and go. If he wants to answer the bell, he can answer the bell. If he wants to turtle, he can turtle and deal with that. But it's like if you like, don't get me wrong, if I was on the Leafs, that would have pissed me off. Drop him and go.
Yep. I love that. Drop the gloves, just start fighting him, and like
just grab him.
Yeah, yeah. To me, and let me know if you guys disagree. I don't even think Riley meant to cross-check him in the face. I think he was so fucking pissed and knew that he was the closest guy to him, and was like, "Holy shit, I'm not letting him do that." And he just kind of like goes over there and like just kind of reaches for him, and like, yes, unfortunately gets him right in the fucking like teeth with the stick. So yeah, you can't do that, and you got to know where your stick's at and all that. But to me, it seemed like a total like spur of the moment, just like, oh shit, like I'm gonna reach for this guy, and then he's like, oh fuck, I literally just like hit him right in the head. Like,
and Morgan Riley's not a dirty player. I think
that's the other thing. Where
this could have been like a
games. That's a lot.
It's definitely, I mean, you talked about the NHL wanting to remove these, these big blow up hits. It's exactly what this is. And they've been talking about taking out the cross check into the face for so long now.
There's literally been like 2 or 3 other cross check to the face adjacent suspensions this year. And I think they've all been like 5. So they're literally trying to like
the Perron one, I'm pretty sure, right?
Yes.
If I'm not mistaken, the David Perron one was 5.
I thought there was like one other
6.
thing that was
6,
maybe,
sorry.
yeah. I thought there was one other that was maybe not like direct cross check the face, but somehow involved stick and face. I don't know, whatever.
It's funny to me how people get so upset about this online, because the way that I kind of look at it is like everything sort of worked the way it should have, if that makes sense. Like, okay, you want to make a statement, right? You ice the game, you take a slap shot. Okay, I get it. You want to make a statement, take the slap shot. Then Riley gets pissed off, rightfully so, right? Guy takes an absolute clapper at 73 miles an hour, 2 feet from the net. And there's the unwritten rule, like you said. Okay, he goes up and did he mean to cross-check him in the face? He was coming in kind of hot.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Like, and the guy was still moving. So
if anything, maybe he meant to like punch him in the face, but he kind of got him with the stick more than the hand. I don't really know.
Regardless, he makes him pay the piper. Okay, I get it. And then he goes down. Everybody comes in and causes a ruckus, and it goes viral online. Okay, I get it. And then he gets suspended and gets held accountable for what he did. That everybody understands why he did it. And everybody's making this huge. I'm like, it worked exactly as it's supposed to.
Right.
Like, guy got cocky. Guy got beat up. Guy who did beat up got suspended. That's like, why is this?
The best part though, did you guys watch like on the broadcast, like to the very, very end, there's two guys who are buddies in the crowd. One's wearing a Leafs jersey, one's
I
wearing a
did
Sens
see that.
jersey. And the guy in the Leafs jersey turns to his friend, is like, "What the fuck?" Like,
Yeah, and like he like pushes him. He's like,
Yeah.
"What the fuck, dude?"
I was I was like, yes, this is what I'm here for.
yeah, like he literally the look on his face is as if like his buddy is
Yes.
Ridley. He's like, "You just did that. Like that's you out there."
And that's what, like, and I know we want
That's
to
hockey,
take, like,
baby.
yes, I know we want to take like hits to the face and cross checks to the face out of the game, but put us on the ice and we're all going to be 13 years old again.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that he should have cross-checked in the face.
No,
All I was saying was
I agree.
it's interesting that everyone gets really pissed off, and it went pretty much exactly as you thought it would have gone. Like there were like when you watch that real time, that's like okay,
Yeah.
like yeah, he fucking rocked him. I don't know. Got hockey in the media though, so that's always a fun.
It's kind of cool. I mean, we went back to the 90s, early 2000s for a little bit. So,
But yeah,
Also-
man, moral of the story, if you're fucking Ridley Gregg and you're essentially a youngster, kind of a nobody in the league right now, can't be doing that. Can't even be doing that if you are somebody in the league.
yeah. I
Yeah.
also love now, like, all the other like egregiously disrespectful empty net goals are being like circulated online again. And shout out longtime Washington Capital Callie Johansson. I don't know if you guys have seen his, but there's one at the MCI Center where he literally skates the puck to the like the red line in the empty net and waits for like 10 seconds to put it into the net until people catch up with him.
Yeah, I know that one. That one's also that's
Did that
pretty
start
egregious.
a fight?
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
see, that's what, and the Kessler one in 2015, he did it against the Flames. It started a ruckus because he took like not a full winder, but he kind of did the 1 foot, like kind of leaned into it, and people went nuts. So it's just one of those things. I don't know, but
My dad made a great point. He was like, I would kind of be pissed if I was his coach, because just put the puck in the empty net. You're winding up to take a clapper. Your odds of missing that thing or your stick exploding just went up a lot.
so yeah, like I was thinking that I was like, you gotta have some balls to not have your stick explode, like because you don't know with the sticks nowadays. That would have been
Right.
But anyways, we'll move on from that. But that was a fun little internet segment that I thought I got a kick out of
He
watching
should
everybody.
he should talk to Patrick O'Sullivan. Maybe he can explain why you
I
don't
mean,
want to do that.
in the immediate aftermath of that happening, like I think I just sent I'm pretty sure we all sent each other the clip like simultaneously. And I literally said, I was like, everything about this is hilarious. Like every single element of this is so funny.
It's funny.
Everything, especially the fact that these two players have 4 first names.
Yeah.
Yeah, wait a minute.
And the-
Holy shit.
And have you ever noticed? I just noticed this as I'm looking at his name. Why does Morgan Riley spelled REI instead of RIE?
that has always bothered me.
Yeah.
That's weird.
Because like
That-
whenever we have notes about him, and here's big OCD coming in, the like spell check thing is
Yeah.
always under it.
Yeah, and I hate that.
Yeah.
I don't want to see that. Don't
I know
show
what
me
I
the
said.
squiggly red line.
I meant what I said.
Morgan, Riley, Ridley, Greg.
Where's the other 2 guys?
Speaking of things that you don't want to see, I think I know an opinion coming up on our next discussion point. We'll make this one a little quicker. Carolina Hurricanes wearing Hartford Whaler uniforms and Cooperalls and whatever they're called for warm-ups. What are your no, did they wear them during the game? I didn't watch, to be honest. I don't know if they just do them for warm-ups or they do them for the game.
I don't think they do the Cooperalls in the game. I don't
Yeah,
think
okay,
you
that's
could
what
do
I
that.
Yeah.
I don't know if they did the Whalers jerseys for the full game. I know they've done that in the past, but
Yeah, to be honest, I didn't watch it, but I saw the warm-up pictures and such. What are your guys' thoughts on this?
I feel like we've maybe had a similar discussion on the show before, but I'm of the belief that it is very weird. And I mean, you wouldn't see the Winnipeg Jets rocking like Atlanta Thrasher throwbacks or something. Like it's almost like haha, fuck you. Remember when you had a hockey team? Well,
Right.
you don't, and now we do. But cool jerseys, thanks.
it's
Like,
also
like,
it's just stupid that it's Carolina. They have literally nothing to do
yeah.
with the Hartford Whalers or
Right.
that franchise or that city. And people are like, well, who should get to wear it then? And it's like, you can't have the Bruins wear it because they played
No.
against each other for however
Nobody
many
should
years.
get to wear it. They just don't Yeah,
But you make a
sick
great
jersey.
point.
I get it, but like
It's
they
not like
don't
you see
exist.
the Jets doing, a Thrashers throwback, or the Yotes doing an
Yeah.
original Jets throwback, or the
Right.
Calgary Flames doing an Atlanta Flames throwback. So my
Yep.
idea, and I'd like to hear your guys' thoughts on this, is why not make the defunct jerseys the All-Star jerseys?
Oh,
Wait, what do you mean by that?
So like, how we had the red, white, blue, yellow ones this year?
Yep.
One year, one team's the Hartford Whalers, one's the Quebec
Oh.
Nordiques, one's the Atlanta Thrashers, one's the, I don't know, California Golden Seals.
That's
like
or just Golden Seals, just take the region out of
Yeah.
it, but
Yeah.
still a great way to sell those uniforms. I mean, I know that would be like,
And celebrate like some of the history and stuff.
and I know people would get mad about certain
Yeah.
players from certain
Yes,
teams having to
for
wear
sure.
a jersey that's not directly affiliated with them or a rival city or some shit
they
like
would
that. But
they
if,
would never do it, but I do
Yeah.
kind of fuck with the idea.
like, if we're just gonna do this continued like draft, for lack of a better word, to me that makes more sense than trying to figure out fun team names or colors or by division or something.
they
Yeah.
did wear them, by the way. They don't wear the Cooperalls in the game, but they
Right.
wear the actual white Whalers jersey, which looks incredible, might I add.
Yeah, very nice.
I mean, it's one of the best looks ever in sports.
Well, and I don't blame them because their normal jerseys suck so bad. It's like, fuck, can we look good for once or what?
I don't understand it. Like, I get maybe like, oh, we're honoring our expansion history, but like, you're the Carolina Hurricanes. Like,
Yeah,
The only
shouldn't be
reason
wearing
you
it.
have a team is because Hartford doesn't.
couldn't. Yeah,
Yeah.
because they couldn't keep up. Like, yeah,
yeah, like I don't know. People always get really upset. I understand on that one why, but just an interesting thing. The Cooperall look, it looks
It's
cool when
rough.
it looks cooler when the Flyers do it. I think the Flyers are the one team
yeah. I agree.
because they used to wear it as their full one, in
Like with the
70s.
black ones. Yeah,
Yep.
the green
Yeah.
ones.
Yeah, I think it works.
Not ideal.
More with it. But all right, Nick, I know you had a little listener question poll. We'll do this. We'll do gambling real quick, and then I know you got Beanpot and trivia, and we're out of here.
Correct. So shout out to you guys. You guys are the reason why we've made it to 200 episodes. We wanted to answer some of your questions. We had a bunch of you OGs who've been around since the beginning send these in. So just 6 quick ones here. Boys, what is the hardest part about doing this podcast in your mind?
Matching schedules
That's a good one.
and time zones.
Yeah, and I'd say especially like when it gets around like the holidays and stuff. Just and like balancing everybody's like life too. Like, I mean, you guys get 1 episode a week, but what that looks like for us is like 2, sometimes 3 different weeknights out of our week, like where we're putting in work, doing shit here. So it's a lot of work. It's definitely
think-
the hardest part.
To put it into perspective for people that don't know, the quietest our group chat between the 3 of us is right now. Outside of that, it is going off every 30 seconds about something.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's pretty true.
So
And-
I'd have to agree with you, Harry. I think coordination and scheduling, and then the lovely, the unforeseen technical issue is just
Yeah.
Hmm.
Also worth noting, we do not like make any real income on this, so this is for the.
No,
It's not like we're like, oh, we're gonna make some money on this one. Like, no, it's
Right.
for the fans. baby.
Unless you guys want to go buy like 300 shoot the puck shirts or something.
which I
Which
mean,
would be
you
sick.
probably need more than one now that we're thinking about it. But
Right.
Yeah.
what like response or question do you get the most when you tell people about doing the show?
I feel like a lot of the like random people that I'm like it comes out that I have a podcast somehow and they're like, "Oh, what's your podcast about?" And then I have to be like, "Oh, it's like a hockey gambling podcast." And they always are just like they act like I just said I have like an underwater horseshoes podcast or something like that. Like they're like, wow,
that's your other
so
one.
random and like niche or whatever. And I'm like, I mean,
That's
it
the
is
point.
because we're the only ones who do it. But also it's not that like there's a ton of people that like it and
Yeah.
are interested in both of those things.
Right. Yeah. I think that's a good one for people who don't know hockey. For people who do know hockey, like someone says, "Oh, this is my buddy Harrison. Like he runs a hockey podcast. You're talking to a hockey guy." They go, "Why is it named that?" I'm like,
That's
well,
a good one. I get that a
that's-
lot.
Yeah. Why? How'd you get the name? Which is one I always like answering.
I think the one that sticks out to me, the name one is good. I'll go a different direction here, is a lot. And this tends to happen like at bars if I'm meeting people and they ask about it. Their first response is, "You should have me on the show." And I'm like, "Oh, like, did you like play hockey? Are you a hockey fan?"
I've
9
gotten that
times
too.
out of 10, they're like, "No, but I'm really, really funny."
Yeah, I love that.
That's fantastic.
There's a lot of people we could have had on that are really, really funny, but
Right.
you know, it just doesn't really fit the bill. But yeah.
Right.
Moving on, what is your favorite part about doing this show? If you had to
Honestly,
pick one thing.
my favorite part is that it literally keeps me so in the know on hockey. Like it keeps me that, and it gives me a place to like vent. Honestly, it's like a free. We talk about the free therapy sessions all
Yep.
the time for like cap shit and like. But I don't know. Seriously, like I follow hockey closely, and I probably still would anyway. But like knowing that I have to like do the pod, I'll just watch random like game recaps of like hockey games throughout the week specifically so I can like talk about a random thing that happened on the show.
I like the stories that you hear. It's always a fun one, whether it's interview guests or honestly, my favorites are weekend recaps that get a little weird with these guys. So it kind of keeps you with that locker room feel, which is something
Yes.
that I personally miss a lot. And this is the closest thing I get to that. So to you two, I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. I echo everything Harry just said. The locker room being around the boys thing for sure. And I think just the people that we've gotten to, meet and interact with over the course of 200 episodes have been really, really cool.
I'm excited for this next one.
Funniest moment on the show. There's a lot in my opinion, there's a lot to pick from. Listeners
There
might
is.
not think so, but
I had to think about this one for a while, but
yeah.
I seriously think for me personally, it is the Chimbis Schlempo torn meniscus because it was not premeditated at all. Harry was just reading through a list of like injuries, and I just saw an opportunity and somehow snuck it in there without him seeing me add it. But I think Nick did see that I added it. And
I
like,
saw it like 2 minutes before we were to the point when it was going to be read. So
yes.
now I have to control myself for 2 minutes. Which...
No, and that was the funniest part for me because you and I are making eyes at each other across the fucking screen, and Harry's just going through the episode like normal, and we're just so ready for the big payoff, and it was every bit as funny as I could imagine.
So in case you're not catching on, it was probably 10 or 20-ish episodes ago.
It could be
there
40.
Was a list of injuries, and Mac put in a name that is not a real hockey player named Jimbo Schlempo.
Chimbis.
Yeah. Jimbis Schlempo. And I read it off like it was nothing. And then I see them start cracking up.
It was the episode immediately following the Stanley Cup.
Yep.
So we're talking about
big
like
list of all the injuries that people were playing with. Yeah, that's what it looked. It was literally like a grocery list of like 10 or 12, maybe even more than that. Guys, like this guy had a sprained ankle. This guy, he had a broken elbow, whatever, and then just Chimbis Schlempo torn meniscus. So good.
Harry, what about you? Funniest moment?
One that stands out to me, I know someone's going to say the one answer that's obvious, but I think the one for me that stands out is the Depression Day that we did in 2022. It was the day after the Pens lost Game 7 to the Rangers in overtime, and the Caps blew it to the Panthers. And I was at the beach, and we were all like legitimately like
depressed. Right after your vacation got ruined.
Yes.
Yeah, I think we all had like hoodies up, sunglasses on.
That
it might have been like a 6:30 in the morning recording if we were still doing those.
It might have been.
It was bad.
That one was great. I've got two.
All right.
Number one is Tequila Bat Smash for me.
Knew that was coming.
That was coming. Just go watch the YouTube video if you don't know what he's talking about.
To this day, may be the hardest I've ever laughed in my life. There's like one or two things from like my fraternity pledging days that might supersede it, but it is actually like I think the funniest story I've ever heard. The second one is the Hamburger incident. And for those who don't know what that is, it was after the three of us and Jed and Stephen Baker got to see the Oilers absolutely wax the Caps 5-0. So we went out and drowned it a little bit afterwards. And the three of us are back at my house in the basement, inhaling Taco Bell and attempting to record a live pod for you guys. Cause it was like 1 out of 2 times we were going to be together that calendar year. And we're talking about like recapping the night and recapping like what we ate at the Taffer's restaurant. And Mac just starts like looking at the camera going, I had a hamburger, and I lost it, like completely, like grabbing my stomach, tears coming out of my face, lost it. And
hamburger.
Hysterical.
So we never posted that because it's borderline unpostable, but I would love if we could just find that clip and post it somehow. Just him saying hamburger.
I definitely need to see that again.
It's fantastic. Whenever I've had a rough day, I watch one of those 2 videos.
Yeah, send me that after this episode. I gotta see that again.
For sure. Moving on, who has been your favorite guest on the show? Boys, I have a feeling this one's going to be pretty tough.
It's very tough. I thought about this earlier, and I for more reasons than one, I actually have to say Ole Kolzig, because that was just such a like special episode for me. Like, that is the first Caps jersey I ever had, Ole Kolzig jersey. I have pictures of me and my little sister. Me and my sister when we were little, like with him and his goalie mask, the Godzilla mask, like just so many childhood memories associated with Ole the goalie. I was super nervous for that one too. Like, if you go back and listen, you can tell I've got my stomach in my mouth the whole time, but it was a real special episode for me.
I totally agree. That for me was the most surreal moment about doing this show, where like multiple times during the interview, I kind of had to like pinch myself and be like, wait, he's talking to me. He's not on TV.
And the coolest part about that too was how it came together. For those of you who don't know, most of our like guests come together because we reach out to them and we get lucky that they, read our message and respond and say yes. Ole just kind of like happened to hear about our episode and was like chatting with my dad and like just outwardly offered to like come on, which was so cool. So,
which I don't think we've ever said yes to something as fast as we've said yes to that. I think, Ole is great. Another one that we did a while ago, but always sticks with me, is 2-time Stanley Cup champion Chris Versteeg.
Yeah, that's got to be like our biggest guest. I mean, like,
and he was so cool. That was an early morning. I think it was a weekend interview too. And we had gone back and forth with like his assistant or whoever was coordinating his schedule. And she was amazing. She was so great about giving us the time of day, which, hey, we're not Barstool. We're not the biggest thing out there. So obviously we appreciate that. And he stayed on with us for like an hour and a half, probably 50 minutes of recording and then another 40 of just chat.
He seemed to be having a really good time. That was cool, because it like, unlike the Ole interview, I didn't feel nervous at all for whatever reason. I was just like, oh, this guy's just one of us. Like, he's just a cool guy.
He was good. I think mine, one that always stands out, that I think it's just because of the amount of history and like the amount of like YouTube clips this guy has. You can ask him all the time. Rob Ray was a cool one.
That was unreal.
Yeah, that was a really cool one.
Rob Ray was a cool one. And fun fact, I was definitely ill with coronavirus at the peak of the like pandemic during that when we did that. And I was like, boys, I don't know if I can fucking go.
Yeah.
But I made the effort, and I'm glad I did, because that was a fun ass interview. I enjoyed that one.
By the way, if you're, maybe under the age of like 18 and you are listening to this and you don't know who Rob Ray is, just type Rob Ray into YouTube and have yourself a day, because there's like 30,000 videos of him just decapitating people.
I'm going to throw RA in there too. That was actually pretty fucking cool.
RA was fun. And another one that I always just had like a hilarious, great time with, because he was such an energetic and fun guy, was Pete Weber.
Yeah, that was really awesome. That was another kind of like interesting way that we got, like, I have like a friend of a friend who kind of knows him or whatever, and that was an interesting way that we acquired that interview as well. But
for sure,
super awesome.
Last one for you boys here. What has been the coolest moment while doing this show? So maybe it was that interview guest that you got to talk to. Maybe it was, I don't know, going to a game together. So far, in your opinion, what's been the coolest thing?
I think I'm going to think of one that you guys aren't thinking of, but once you hear me say it, you'll be like, oh, wait, that was pretty cool. Do you remember when we broke the news to Zach Jones that the Rangers
Yeah.
did they fire or hire Laviolette? I can't remember which one.
They fired Gallant and hired
Gallant.
Laviolette, right?
No, they hired
No,
Gallant.
they
Oh,
hired
hired
Gallant.
Gallant. Okay.
Yeah.
I can't remember who their coach was before that. This was a while ago, but we were like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, Gerard
Quinn, right?
Quinn.
Actually, yeah, I
Yes.
think
Yeah.
you're right.
Yeah.
Mine
Yeah.
and this is a little bit of a weirder one. Help me out here. Was it DeSalvo the first time we had him on that like basically kind of announced his retirement like on the show?
Second
Like,
time.
yeah, and so the reason I'm going to spin this into something really cool is because we were still kind of relatively new to it, especially me because I hadn't been on as long as you guys have been doing this, and we were trying to hone our like interviewing skills. It's a work in progress sometimes talking to some, especially some of these minor leaguers. Everybody's different, and I just remember like we're trying to kind of pry at his hockey career, and he clearly like didn't really want to like get into it that much. And then he kind of like just said like, yeah, to be honest, I've been like thinking about hanging him up and like moving on to something else or whatever. And like, I could kind of like sense this moment where we all kind of like panicked, like, holy shit, like, well, now what the hell do we ask this guy?
Right.
And the rest of that interview was so awesome. I don't know what happened, but something overtook the three of us. And we just like, we're like, you know what? That's fine, man. Let's talk it out. And what else do you want to do with your life? And like, and it ended up being a really awesome interview. And we're still great buddies with DeSalvo now. And he's been on several times after that now too. And yeah, I think of that as like a key moment for us and kind of like breaking through and like just learning how to like pivot in an interview, which is really important.
Yeah, there's definitely no script when you're, 35 minutes into an interview and something like what Mac just said happens. So, yeah, that's a great point. And obviously Dan has been a fantastic friend to us throughout this process and someone that we're still very, very close with. So, huge shout out to him. I think for me, the one that always is going to stand out to me, and, yes, it's because it's Capitals related, so it's a little bit sentimental for me, is watching Zach Fucale's first NHL game after he had been on the show twice and he pitches a shutout. I've never been that invested
that was so cool.
in a regular season Caps Red Wings away hockey game. I don't think I sat down the entire third period. At one point I was like, I'm watching in my bedroom because, that game started at 8. So it's on a little bit later. And I'm 3 inches from my, 55-inch TV, like squeezing my hands as tight as possible. I'm like, oh my God, like, this guy might get a shutout in his first NHL game. And the last 10 minutes just felt like an hour.
That was cool. And for those who don't know, he was our first, I'll use the word big guest.
Pro guest.
We had only interviewed, local guys, and there's nothing wrong with that. Those are honestly some of the best ones that we've done. But he was the first one where it was like a professional athlete coming on. And I just remember, I'll add this to the coolest moments. We were shitting ourselves, so nervous.
Literally,
we were like,
that's when I still lived in LA. I remember being in my tiny ass bedroom, and we all logged on like an hour beforehand just to be like, okay, all right. So like when he gets on, like everybody be cool. Like just.
And then people on Twitter knew us as the like Fucale guy podcast. Like, oh, they got Zach Fucale. So when he shut it out, we had people tweeting us. It was cool.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Yeah, it was. I mean, and Harry and I had gone to watch his preseason game and, all the success, just watching him have. And, I remember him coming on the show. And one of the things he said when he came on the show the first time was, I still haven't played an NHL game in the regular season. And then guy goes out, pitches a shutout, and had it not been for the dumbest own goal of all time, would still have the longest active shutout streak. So,
pretty cool. Yeah. So, those were the listener questions. We appreciate you all for submitting those. Nice to kind of reflect back sometimes and not always talk current news. A little bit of gambling action, which is presented by Prop Tracker. You guys already know the deal. It's your one-stop shop for all the props that you need to bet NFL, NBA, NHL, and more. You can get data for receptions, rebounds, shots on goal, anything and anything sports betting related. You can find on Prop Tracker app. You can use the link in our social media bios to get your first month of Prop Tracker app free, which I highly suggest you do. I think on crowded NHL game days, we'll tweet out some stuff from the EB account, some stats, screenshots, explain everything Prop Tracker related. So we appreciate Prop Tracker for sponsoring the gambling segment. That is PROPTRCKR. There is no letter E. proptracker.com/emptybetters. All right, we'll make it quick. Last week on the episode, I gave out a pick in advance, which I always love doing. Don't do it often, but had to do it last time. First game after the coaching change for the LA Kings. They take down the Oilers as home underdogs 4-0 at +100. Hope you cashed it. Said it on the pod. Tweeted it day of from Arizona while I was not in the best mindset, so I was feeling a little frisky there. But happy that the Kings got it. Another team that I've talked about earlier this season, but the trend continues, the Dallas Stars. When they're at home this season, over 6.5. They have hit that 21 out of 26 home games this year. They're home tonight against the Hurricanes.
Great
I have
over
that
team.
over.
Great over team.
Second best over 6.5 record in the league, only behind the Canucks. If you had Prop Tracker, you would know that. I also think it's worth noting that the team total over of 3.5 has hit in 17 of their 26 home games. So just keep an eye on that. Dylan Larkin, want to give him a shout out here real quick. Goals in 7 of his last 10. Usually find those odds between +145 and +180, depending on the opponent. He's also got points in 9 of his last 10. It's -140 to get one tonight against Edmonton. Obviously, Edmonton's a really good team, so you're getting some better value. But if you're cooking up some point parlays, I think Larkin's a guy to put in there. And then your guys' boy, Mr. Alex Ovechkin, goals in 5 straight games. He's up to 13 on the year. Is he back?
Never left.
Exactly.
Grab the beer. Never left.
Boys, like, come on.
What?
Ovi has been unreal this year. I know he hasn't been scoring at the rate that everyone thinks he should be because we all want to see the record. Have you seen some of the setup plays this man is making?
Agree. I've been saying it all year long.
Yeah.
Also,
It's the record or nothing.
He just went to Dubai and rode camels over the All-Star break. So some might say he got over the hump.
Oh, very nice.
Like that one. But yeah, Ovi, anytime goal scorer. Let's see if he can keep it up tonight against the Colorado Avalanche. I don't know what the score is of that right now, but I know you guys are taking them on.
I believe it is 2-2.
Ooh, okay then. Nick, I know you want to talk a little Beanpot.
Yeah, absolutely. Boys, the freaking Beanpot was wicked awesome. No, it was an unreal tournament again. BC took the consolation game over Harvard 4-0. Northeastern, I don't know what's going on with these guys, but it seems like they catch lightning in a bottle when it comes to this tournament lately. They took down number 3 BU in overtime. Gunnar Wolf Fontaine scoring the winner again like he did last week. Northeastern did not lead once in this game. The shots were insanely lopsided. And Harry, I don't know if you caught this, but prior to the game, former Terrier Mike Sullivan was inducted into the Beanpot Hall of Fame.
I did catch that. Congrats to Sully. God knows what the fuck is happening in Pittsburgh right now. But one thing I do know, Sully is a Boston legend. Glad he got some praise. Love that guy. Penguins suck.
The funniest part of that was, so it's a packed TD Garden with, all these Boston area hockey fans, BU fans, Northeastern fans, and they're doing a video tribute to Sully. And they talk about him playing for the Terriers, winning the Bean Pie, going to the NHL. And then they talk about him winning a Stanley Cup with the Pittsburgh Penguins, and the whole arena just starts booing.
That's awesome.
That sounds about right.
I was like, yep. I was like, yeah, this is why they do it at TD Garden. So fantastic. I would love, I know ESPN Plus just siphons through the NESN coverage. I would love to get Bucci on the call on ESPN Plus, especially for a big college hockey event like that. But yeah, that was unreal. So congrats to Northeastern. We saw some pics of them eating the beans out of the pot today. So this did look like some good beans. Let's go ahead and move over to the Big Ten. We had the duel in the D this weekend between your Michigan State Spartans and some other school from Ann Arbor. Does anyone know who won that?
Not upside down Wumbo.
Exactly. That's right. Michigan State wins the duel in the D for the first time since 2016. The Iron D trophy is headed back to East Lansing. Guys, I'm going to be honest. Big time homer here. Grew up in a Spartan household. The Michigan State Spartans can absolutely win the national championship.
That would be really cool. I'd be so here for that.
They've got the scoring. They've got some amazing forwards. They've got the, tenured D-core. One of their defensemen, Lev Shanov, is going to go in the top 3 in the NHL draft. And they might have the best goalie in college hockey in Trey Augustine.
All it takes is a hot tendy.
Yeah.
It's true.
A hot tendy, and maybe if you could shut down that top line BC has, that would help. But yeah, this Frozen Four tournament is going to be insane. Looking forward to it. Can't wait. Go green.
Hell yeah. All right, well, let's get into some trivia, and then we'll get you out of here. Just a reminder to support your local dive bar and go have a beer at Elwood's Liquor and Tap, home of the Pizza Luge, located in the heart of downtown Milwaukee on Water Street. 70s inspired bar has a little something for everybody, from daily happy hour, rotating taps, free birthday perks, and a 4-season patio. A good time is always right around the corner at Elwood's, with the full NHL package plus TV screens inside and out. Hockey fans can watch any game, anytime. We will see you down at Elwood's. All right, boys. This was a hard one because, I didn't know whether to do February 13th, 14th, 15th at this point. I just kind of wanted to see what was on actual Valentine's Day for the fun of it. And there was actually like probably 3 that I was bouncing around from choosing between, but we're gonna start with this one. I do think there's an off chance that like someone might know this like right off the top of their head. If that's the case, I'll just flip to the other one real quick. But we'll try this. Who set a league record for a defenseman by scoring a goal in his 8th consecutive game on February 14th, 2009, to lead his team to a 5-1 win at Tampa Bay Lightning?
Easy.
Who is the greatest offensive defenseman of all time with his blue Easton stealth stick, Michael Demetrius Green?
All right, very good, very good. All right, we'll move to the other one then. All right. This player set a team record with an assist in his 15th straight game on February 14th, 2001, during a 2-1 win over the visiting Minnesota Wild. He broke the previous assist record of 14 games held by a now Hall of Famer.
You didn't read a team off that he played for, right? It was just that he broke the streak against the Minnesota Wild.
Correct. So he set his team record with an assist in his 15th straight game on February 14th, 2001.
Is this team in the Western Conference since they're playing the Wild? Maybe I can assume that?
No, they are not.
Okay.
Who is Ron Francis?
Nope.
I mean, this is wide open.
I don't know why my brain is like, Mac just gave us a Caps answer, so this one has to be a Penguins answer.
2001 Penguins. Is it Yager?
Yeah, it's Yager. It's the Penguins.
If you're Fanatics, Yard.
Yeah. Who did he break the record of? That one's easy.
Has to be Lemieux, right?
Yeah. Just real quick, I won't make you guess this one, but this one's kind of funny and has some empty betters history to it. This is the other one I was gonna do. Mike Knuble set the NHL record for the fastest 2 goals to start a game by one player on February 14th, 2003, in the Bruins 6-5 win over the Panthers. He scored 10 seconds after the opening draw before giving Boston a 2-0 lead just 27 seconds into the game. That's the one that I fucking read that one time, but it was like the wrong date or something. And we literally had to like cut it from the show because we like blew it up in the middle of the fucking question.
I forgot about that.
But
it was like he was on like the O2 Red Wings or something, and we were so confused.
It kept saying he was on like the 2013 Bruins or something like that, but it was the 2003 Bruins or vice versa or some shit like that, and whatever. But yeah,
I'm glad you did.
That one gave me a good
one
chuckle,
because in terms of scoring 2 goals the quickest, Mike Knuble was probably the last person I would have guessed.
That one, that's actually a really good trivia question, but I still don't trust this site to like have that one correct because it was fucked up before. So I still feel like what I just read might somehow be false. They like fucked up a year or like a number or something. I don't know. Shout out the hockey writers. You guys are awesome, but you need a better editor. Hire me. Anyway,
For the record, just going off what Max said, it's probably like a 2% chance that when you hear a podcast that we have any type of edit or cut. This is one take, one go.
Yep.
That's the show usually. So
I think we've probably removed something in 200 episode that we've done. We've probably removed something from an episode 5 times.
yeah,
maybe.
Yeah.
that sounds about right. Yeah.
And we've only not released one interview.
Which was just
Which was
we would have been canceled very long ago.
train wreck, and
It did not go the way we thought it was going to go.
Yeah, that
and
guy,
just to mention, that person's audio was also the worst we've ever encountered.
well, not the worst, not the worst we've ever.
No,
encountered.
not the worst, but at least they had a stable internet connection.
Yeah.
Alrighty. Well, we want to thank everybody once again for all the support, not only today, just for listening, but over the last 5 years, 200 episodes, whatever you want to call it. Some people we specifically want to thank, in particular, some former guests, Zach Fucali. We talked about him earlier, first ever professional that we got to interview. So we appreciate that. He's been on the show several times, still a friend of the program. And then Dan DeSalvo and Chris Nell, they've always been there to support us. They've tried helping us get interview guests. They're always down to come on, and they are some of the funniest guys you'll ever meet. So we appreciate them. Some Twitter friends. Definitely want to thank Mr. Ice Elio. He's come on the show a bunch, and he always gets us a bunch of traction online, whether it's for good or for worse. If you know, you know.
Hell yeah.
I want to thank Turk, another friend of the program. Go follow Turk2112. He's had me on the Icebox before when he was doing that last year. He's been on the show several times.
Great
He's
guy.
gotten us some very big interview guests behind the scenes. So appreciate him. And then I also want to thank TDO. He was kind of on the come up at the same time as us on Twitter. He's always been, supporting us. He's come on the show a bunch, and I know he's always down. I'm sure we're going to be doing a lot of stuff with him come playoff time when we're going 2 podcasts a week or YouTube shows or whatever. We got a lot planned. And then obviously the friends and family of the EB Nation, specifically maybe even the ladies. Sometimes when you're recording, takes up some time. Tomorrow's Valentine's Day, and there's some podcast stuff going on, so we appreciate you. That's all I gotta
Absolutely.
say.
Yeah. Want to give another quick shout out to Nick Bowens and Hockey Collective too. They've been unbelievable.
For sure. Mac, you got any names? Or are you good?
Think you pretty much covered it. I mean, shit.
Big Vogues too. We got to
Big
give him
folks.
one.
Yeah, I was gonna say your
Yep.
dad.
Definitely, he's helped out a lot in more ways than one. Like you said, all the parents and siblings and girlfriends and whatnot. Love you guys.
Appreciate y'all. Here's to 200 more, and without further ado.
Class dismissed.